of the country as well reducing. In fact, the GRA, Commissioner General, at some point also raised concerns about how this CD appreciation is impacting on the revenues of the Ghana Revenue Authority. Was he right in the diagnosis?
Well, thank you very much, and good morning once again. The president was largely right. I think he communicated the mind of Ghanaians, but I'm not too sure every Ghanaian was happy with the aggressive pace of the appreciation. We felt that there was sound policy behind what we were seeing from the fiscal side because of the expenditure cuts, the fiscal discipline, and even the fact that the government had used the 2025 budget alone to restore the IMF program back on track. Because remember that we're supposed to do the revised fiscal targets, the primary balance of 0.5% of GDP. We ended up, because of the 2024 election, doing around 3.4% of GDP. And if you look at across almost all the indicators, with the exception of international reserves and then GDP growth and the rest of them, we did poorly relative to the IMF target. But then governments came in, used the 2025 budget to aggressively restore the program. And if you look at the expenditure cut, and I've said it before, that for the first time in recent years, is when we saw a government actually cutting expenditure in nominal terms. And I compared that to 2017, when a new government also took over. You realize that even though we're still under IMF program and still doing fiscal consolidation, in 2017, over 2016 expenditure base, expenditure went up by about 32% in 2017 over the 2016 base. However, in 2025, expenditure went down. In fact, in nominal terms. So all of that gave some kind of confidence and all of that. So with that fiscal discipline, the monetary side was also taking shape. And remember that the monetary side had been quite consistent as part of the IMF-supported program in building reserves. And we had indicated that the previous administration had left substantial reserves, which gave some kind of comfort also for the central bank to step in. But we were concerned about the pace of the appreciation. It was too aggressive. And so in the same breath, when the president says that a depreciation of almost 25% or so in 2024, it was unsettling, it's the same way that within 3 months, if you look at the data here, okay, April 2025 to somewhere July 2025, we are seeing almost 30% appreciation. That is how unsettling that could also be. So when we talk about price stability, and remember the exchange rate is also a price, like the price of goods, services that we talk about. So a sharp appreciation or a sharp depreciation is neither good for the economy overall. You can count the benefits, you can count the cost and all of that. I think we had indicated broadly that what we treasure was stability, predictability. In economics, stability is not the same as same price over time.
Stability is not the same
as fixed price
over time. The same price over time.
No. Prices are considered to be stable if the change in price are so small. Okay, so that it doesn't cause dislocations in the economy, so that it doesn't affect the economic decisions of agents. Relatively constant over a period, we will say prices are what? Stable. So in some jurisdictions, if a price variation of, let's say, between 2 and 5% occurs, we will still say there's price stability. Let's come back to our own Bank of Ghana's short-term price stability objective. If we index that by inflation, we are saying that price is still stable if we're able to achieve inflation rate of between 6 and then 10%. Between 6 and 10%. That is why we say our inflation target is 8% plus or minus 2, or like we say technically 8% with a symmetrical rate of 2%. So inflation rate between 6% and 10% is considered to be stable. Over time, if the fundamentals transform, we can revise that target to maybe 6% plus or minus 2 and all of that. So those are the things that we want to look at. I want to believe that we missed something somewhere along the line in terms of how our own understanding of the appreciation and the implication for the economy. So you realize that now we are counting our losses. Okay, what was the level of analysis and sensitivity analysis that we did from the beginning of the year or towards the end of the first quarter, which probably could have guided us? And remember, at the time that, in fact, we indicated that there was intervention in the market from the central bank. At some point, it seems to be that there was some kind of denial that there was no intervention. It was just market forces. The IMF came to town and shined the light on that, and it indicated that we had intervened in excess of $1.4 billion.
Yes, that was in the first quarter.
Remember that I looked at, within that same period, I compared what Ghana was doing to Kenya and to Nigeria, and realized that some of these countries chose to stabilize much early in the year rather than allowing their currency to appreciate excessively, because that in itself will cause some kind of dislocations in the economy. But it's good that we are coming back to reality. Look, what we are seeing here, for me, is not surprising.
This period of depreciation of the cedi?
Yes, it's not surprising.
The almost 20% depreciation?
It's not surprising. When you see aggressive pace of appreciation, which you cannot trace to economic transformation, i.e. structural transformation, productivity transformation, of course, that is not to take away what government has done in terms of the leadership they've shown in 2025, expenditure cut, fiscal discipline, prudent monetary policy, and the rest of them. But beyond that, if you are talking about the fundamentals of the economy, it goes beyond that. You want to look at the real sector, you want to look at economic transformation, you want to see whether there are structural transformation, productivity transformation, you want to look at it across all those indicators. Then again, you also want to look at it in relation to external development, because Ghana is not an island, right?
Yes.
And all of that. So I think that it's not surprising. Typically, over time, if you look at the data, you realize that any time there's a sharp appreciation, like we've seen, it's usually accompanied by some reversals correcting, okay?
Especially in the last quarter. This cyclical experience of the cedi over time is what we are seeing.
Yes. Okay, so, but because, again, given external development, and then also the steep expenditure cut, and then the goodwill, or what we call the honeymoon effect, of a new administration, given the results of 2024 and all of that, it was that the conditions were right for that level of appreciation. But I believe that the central bank also took advantage. Okay, so given subdued demand within that period, with minimal intervention or injection of FX, usually the value would change, right, and all of that. But if you had unlimited reserves, then you could say that there's no problem. We can sustain this. But you don't have unlimited reserves.
True.
And then again, look, a currency that historically is very strong, I'm talking about the USD, when within a certain period is priced this low, okay, to the extent that you don't have control over how people will react, you want to be very careful. And you've seen how remittances responded to this development. That is not the only thing. If you talk to businesses on the ground, especially in the manufacturing, beverage, and the rest of them, some of them have entertained revenue losses of more than 40%, simply because of this aggressive strengthening of the currency. Yes. And we have seen smuggling imports from our neighbors, even from Nigeria. Is that okay? Also because the standard VAT rate in Nigeria is around 7.5%. Our standard VAT rate, or effective VAT rate in Ghana, is just around 22%. That's actually 21.9%. So just that alone creates some kind of advantage for imported items from there. Coupled with the aggressive strengthening of the currency, it just made import, and the president was right when he said that there was a surge in import. So we had indicated earlier that what is our economic orientation? What kind of economy do we want to have? Then in that case, you are looking at the positioning of the exchange rate to support that. But given what was happening, we were less comfortable, and we had indicated that we were a bit concerned. We agreed that government was doing something right from the fiscal side. We agreed from the monetary side, they were doing something right. But the pace of the aggressive appreciation was unsettling. It was difficult for people to plan. Look at where we've ended up with. Within, again, just like almost 3 months or 2 months or so, we are seeing a reversal in value of almost 18, 20%.
Just about a month. Yeah, just about a month we've seen from...
So just look at the disruptions in the first quarter, and then also towards the end year. Just look at the disruptions. It's difficult to plan. So when the president said that, yes, stability is what people prefer, that we agree with that. Remember that human beings, businesses, we all prefer relative certainty. It's good for planning, okay? And the predictability is what helps in planning. Otherwise, assuming you had done your budget, and a lot of businesses, if you notice the way they work, towards the year end, they will do their strategic retreat. Mr. Jackson is here. They will do their strategy, approve their budget. Okay, this is the goals we have set. What is underlying budget to help us deliver on that? So they would have approved that. So if in the first quarter alone you see these disruptions, it throws the budget off the target. Then again, July, August, you see another disruption. No, it doesn't help planning. It doesn't help planning. And I believe that we are at the point where I agree when the president says that the city will find a true value. The true value in economics, we say, is the value that is arrived at as a result of the interaction between demand and then supply.
Without any intervention?
No. There is no, with some level of intervention.
By the central bank?
By the central bank. Look.
But now that intervention has been withdrawn. But
it's about the scale.
Yes.
It's about the scale of the intervention. So it got to a point you could visibly see the footprint of the central bank in the market, in driving the rate. When it happens that way, it dwarfs one important function of the market, which is price discovery, which comes about as a result of the interaction of demand and then what supply. Sometimes we say forces of demand and supply. These are not witches and wizards, okay? So when you lift the veil, you get to see the number of people who want to buy as against the number of people who want to sell and all of that. It's about the scale, the footprint. And I believe that the IMF flagged that. We know that the fund will be coming to town towards the end of this month and all of that. And therefore, some incentive to erase our footprint in the market is also good. Is that okay? And allow market forces to determine that. If we fail to do that, what will happen is that, in fact, we have said this before, that we have practically entered the zone where the exchange rate was crowding out FX rather than crowding in FX. And that is why you see the off-the-counter, I hope you understand that, market becoming more liquid than the official market.
You mean black market, you mean?
Call it black market, okay, and all of that. Then
I mean, the black market is okay. So black market is relatable.
Maybe let's say the central bank had the official rate, but the black market had the transaction rate. Okay, and when it happens that way, even for studies and the rest of, sometimes we are confused. Which data should we use? Should we use the official rate or the transaction rate? The transaction rate is where transactions are
taking place.
And all of that. But look, Alfred, we've gone through this. We've had enough time and data in our history in the last 68 years. In fact, let me put it this way. In the last 60 years, since this CD was introduced, July 1965, okay? And I think this year we are celebrating the 60th anniversary of the CD. And we've done some kind of analysis in that space and all of that. In the 70s and 80s, what we call Forest Bureau today were black markets.
I see.
Okay, as part of the IMF World Bank reforms, we had a financial sector component that we call the Financial Sector Adjustment Program, FinSAP, and all of that. So for purposes of inclusivity, market-led economic dynamics, we chose to formally clothe this black market with a formal cloth, right, so to speak, and call them forest bureaus as a way of eliminating the dominant black market. But what have we done? We've ended up almost at the same level. Look, somebody will tell you that it's not so difficult to eliminate black market. Part of what you see there in the black market is also about the fact that there's perceived understanding that the official exchange rate is not the true rate.
I see.
Okay? And when we did analysis, we realized that at some point, the variation between the official exchange rate and the black market rate was more than 25%.
Interesting. More than 25%?
Yeah, more than 25%. And that would not crowd in FX within the official corridor, right? It rather gives oxygen to this thing. And then also, it's not so difficult to understand why the black market is very active. Any country that is corrupt, any country that is corrupt, where people make money, not through their sweat, I hope you understand that, schemes and all of that, it gives the black market gives an interface, okay, through which the formal financial system interact with the underground economy and the rest of them. So we have to look at our corruption. We have to look at so many institutional reforms as a way of dealing with this. Other than that, we cannot use regulation totally. I agree with the central bank. The numerous regulations and enforcement that they are putting in place, it has its role within the system, but it's not a substitute for rather focusing on the fundamentals of the economy. And let me say this, Alfred, we are too focused on exchange rates.
Okay, that's the point I wanted to, and don't lose it, because that leads us to the second part of it. But because you've talked about a number of things, including what was the case between March and the early part of August, when we started experiencing the appreciation of the dollar again, or the depreciation of the cedi against the dollar over the period. Mr. Jackson, because you are a player in the market, you interact with this data as we are seeing now, and hearing the president talk about what has been happening over the last 7 to 8 months, seeing the appreciation of the cedi against the dollar, it sent some good signals to you, the players, but also raised concerns which you also outlined in a few times that we spoke. The president talks about this experience now possibly helping the cedi to find its true value. Will that happen, really?
Okay. Now, well, first of all, good morning to everyone. And I'd like to acknowledge Professor Bokin. He's my tutor.
No, he is my boss.
and I stand with him pretty much on everything he said today. The first thing is that, listen, the volatility is bad. When the currency appreciates sharply, people lose money. People lose and huge sums of money. When the currency depreciates sharply, again, people will lose money. So let's be clear that the most important thing for all businesses is that if there's any change, it is relatively small. One of the things that, to be honest with you, what I heard from the president was that the target is to limit changes to 5%. If they could, you'd be surprised. People will be jumping, the traders, the importers, the industry will be jumping up and down with joy. If it could happen.
That's if it could happen.
If it happens, we'll be really, really excited. So given that, I think that the 10.5 or the 10.5 and that around that rate was ambitious. There was a honeymoon effect. There was a bounce that if you it's like a soccer team that has changed its coach. There's an initial bounce, and then so that was, and what is happening now, I would classify simply as a correction. I also think that we are a bit too so hooked onto this issue of that the currency when it moves, it is showing that things have gone wrong. The fundamentals are bad, and so this correction has everybody in a panic.
No, but so that's to say that that statement of when the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate would expose you was true then. It is still true now, isn't it?
I don't exactly agree. The exchange rate is a very, very complex reaction, including it is a reaction with external factors that we don't have controls over. Is the exchange rate right? It is. Is it a very important measure? It is. Is it the most important measure of the performance of your economy? Unfortunately, that I would agree. I think that the economy has several other things. And it is that same perception that we have, that this exchange rate that made it, gave us an incentive to keep it as low as possible, which is costing us. This is a correction. My initial, you'll be surprised, my reaction to this is stay calm.
No need to panic?
No need to panic. Definitely not yet. Stay calm. I believe that the last month's appreciation has an element of speculation in there. Now people are betting against the CD. Exactly. You see, what has changed so much is the discipline shown by the government in its expenditure still in place. It is. What has changed so much to push the value so high so rapidly? And so inflation is falling. You see, if the appreciation cannot also match the other numbers we are getting, then we should be cautious. And that's why, listen, inflation is coming down. The interest rates are still low.
Not that low.
Not that low, but it's
come down.
It's come down considerably. I'm in the market, and I tell you that I'm seeing lower exchange rates than I've seen in a long while.
Okay.
Right? And yet at the same time, notice that we've kept lending rates high. The central bank has kept lending rates high, which means it is also restricting credit that is going out. So obviously, there are some other factors that are pushing the CD. And some of us believe there's a strong element of speculation. The one thing about speculation is that over time, it will ease out. You make a bet, you have to either lose or gain. But there is some. So my first reaction is that, number one, the volatility is not good for anybody. Number two, let's stay calm.
But
listen, if I think, because I believe that there's an element of speculation, I actually think there's a strong argument for the central bank to come in slightly.
For the central bank to intervene in the forex market again?
Yes, in order not to make this become a run on the city. And you see, these things can be self-fueling. Because what happens is that the faster it is, as it rises fast, people now say, sit up, hey, what's happening to the city? Hey, maybe I have to buy now. And then it becomes a self-fulfilling prediction. I think it is time for the central bank to intervene slightly.
But you see, that how does that then reconcile with the president's position that the central bank has withdrawn, and it's the process of helping the city find its true value, or having the city indeed have some sense of stability and get the true value, so we know exactly what we're working with. If the central bank intervenes, would that be a disruptive intervention or a complementary one?
Okay, first of all, this rapid rise is also not good. The central bank's role is, even if there's going to be a rise over time, to keep it steady and to keep it within a certain range. So there's a definite argument that intervene slightly in the market to temper, if there are speculators, take the incentive for the speculators away. Right? And every central bank intervenes in the market. That's part of its role. So we can't also have a market where we say the central bank should keep prices stable, yet we've tied its hands and says, no, we won't allow it to intervene.
The central bank has a role to play.
It has a role to play.
Yeah.
And in order for us not to see the same sharp appreciation that will shoot it back to 14 and above, right? And remember, why do I say that the central bank should? As at yesterday, on the parallel market, and I like to call it the parallel market because the word black has some.
But we understand it. We're black, the black economy. So the underground or black economy.
And we're the black people.
No,
but the important.
it's a black market. It's black market. Let's call it what it is.
Anyway,
But the important thing that was selling at 14.
The reality. Okay, right.
At 14, and in some instances, I had as high as 14.1. Now, is that kind of appreciation, is it what we're looking for? I doubt. Because that will also cause another severe disruption. We don't need that disruption. We need stability. And I think, Prof, you want to offer a comment on that?
So look at it this way. So if you see some of the directives that Bank of Ghana has been implementing in the last couple of months, you can see an attempt to dissuade the market from withdrawing FX from the formal financial system and head to the black market. So there are charges, penalties, and all of that. Okay. Part of it is also to see that divergence in the rates as much as possible to align them. That is how you take the oxygen out of the black market. And once you take the oxygen out, it dies down. But Alfred, it comes down to the framework we are using. We are not blaming the central bank for intervening in the market. No.
In fact, now, today, I'm urging them to intervene.
With caution, because
with caution,
we are not operating a pure flexible exchange rate system. We are operating largely what we call managed
rate.
Yeah, flexible exchange rate system, where to a large extent we allow the forces of demand and supply to determine the price, but it also allows the central bank or the authorities to step in. If the fluctuations or the volatility is way beyond what is acceptable, the central bank can come onto the market and buy or sell dollars on its own account. And there's nothing. That is why the central bank builds reserves. The reserves is for a reason.
Thank you.
It's for a reason. That is why we have, because if you leave the market purely to just forces of demand and supply, people lose their head.
Reserves are not an end in itself. They are a means to an end. And the reserves are there to provide value to our currency and to provide stability when we need.
And all over the world, they do that. Countries buy gold to back their currency. They do all kinds of intervention. Look, this is see in the US. There's pressure on the US Fed to cut interest rates.
Exactly.
How people see the market and all of that is okay. So I think to a large extent, the coordination, the central bank, monetary policy, because first of all, the government set the tone with the way that they presented the 2025 budget. And in fact, they've kept to it largely. If you look at the half-year report, okay, expenditure cut was much more on track than even the target and all of that. And the president, during the media encounter, indicated that they have recorded primary surplus of 1.1% and all of that. Of course, we know that we need to balance short-term macro stability with medium to long-term economic transformation and then manage that trade-off so that going forward, we begin to also spend progressively, especially in the area of infrastructure and all of that, so that we'll be able to have the kind of economy that every Ghanaian
would desire. Well, people, just you wanted to make an intervention because then we'll get into the other aspect of the conversation.
I mean, if you do comparative analysis, central banks intervene in the market. It's not only us, all over. I mean, what I do remember is that for decades, the US had always been fighting China. That China was intervening too much. I mean, I still can remember from the
China
early
was
2000s.
intervening to keep its currency
low.
low.
Exactly. So all these decades, so as you keep it, I'm just remembering the pictures over
But
20 years now.
I think the concern has been about the quantum of intervention. I mean, in our case. So
the
that
period.
and the period that we're talking about, that's where the issue is, and that's that's why
My argument is that a rate of 12, 13, it will be a far more defensible position to intervene than the rate of 10.
Okay.
And that obviously at 10, the CD was grossly overvalued.
So that's what another statement the president made, that the CD was undervalued at 16 cedis to the dollar, and also overvalued at 10 cedis to the dollar, as we saw in the past few months gone by. And so as a result, there has to be some leveling. How do we determine that really the 13 cities is the leveling up of the city? It's a value that is true and reflective of what the city should be?
It's an estimate. And you build models and you look at what the other numbers are telling you. Look at what inflation is telling you. You look at what the exchange interest rates, imports, and also what is happening in the international market. Remember that the CD is really what translates what happens out there with us. You also look at what you're doing internally in terms of competitiveness of your businesses and your discipline where your fiscal side is concerned. So it is an estimate. And with all estimates, the only thing you can be sure is that it will be precisely wrong. That the actual value will be different, but it is an estimate. But it is a far more defensible position than 10.5.
You mean this 13 cities is sustainable and defensible?
Defensible. Sustainable. Remember, one of the arguments you've made here clearly is that a gradual appreciation is not even bad. We will accept it. But so long as it doesn't go spike up, spike down, spike up, spike down. If it goes steadily, we will accept it and deal with it. In fact, because of all the structural problems in this economy that are yet to be fixed.
And that is why speculation is ripe. Right?
Yes. You know, so it will be difficult to see the CD appreciate long term unless those challenges are fixed. Those problems have persisted for a long time. But so we are prepared to accept even a gradual, slow appreciation. Depreciation
To fix them. Yes. I saw the launch of the Nkukon Kitinkiti, my beloved project. Right? They said they started the processing plant. Yeah, I saw somewhere that the president had launched it. So hopefully, when Nkukon Kitinkiti comes on board and there's a lot of poultry domestically, it means
because we spend more than $200 million importing.
Can you imagine?
Poultry products and all of that.
Together, the food basket is $3 billion. That's how much we
estimates of as high as 300 plus million in just poultry.
And rice.
But back to where we were.
We are importing water too now. We spend more than $11 million importing water in 2023.
So now that's one that we'll get because it ties directly into the Galamsey conversation and all of that. You say so over $11 million importing water into this country.
But it didn't even start last year. It's been there for a while.
In fact, if you track it's been increasing over time. We were spending more money to import water into this country.
And if we are not careful, that's going to be the ultimate business.
And that's where the concern is. And like much people, to the extent that, yes, you want to just conclude on the point you're making.
No, I was just making a comment.
Please.
That anybody who asks me, what are the growth businesses you invest in? You know the number one business I say? Water.
Okay.
Water. Buy a balsa. Buy a water balsa, a water tanker. Get a filtration plant. Because the water wars in this country are going to be incredible. And some of us see buying a sachet of water one of these days as high as 5 cedis for a sachet of water.
Hopefully we don't get there.
The entrepreneurs are talking.
You see, in the end, I think we're all coming back to a point where, one, there's no dispute now that there was some intervention by the central bank in the market over the last 7 to 8 months. Now, that intervention has been withdrawn. The structure of the economy hasn't changed that much. So clearly, sustaining this appreciation was going to be a problem. Juxtapose that with the losses that the president talks about, the 50% reduction in remittances, exporters losing, real estate also losing, and even the GRA itself coming out to say, well, because of this appreciation of the CD, there's 30% loss in the revenue projections for the year. What should be the thinking, especially because we're talking about 13 cities, 12 cities, 13 cities now? Certainly, the revenue projections would have been done with the 14, 15 cities at the beginning of the year. What should be the thinking going forward in terms of sustaining what doesn't do us any good from where we sit now? Council.
Yeah. So basically, like you said, from what Professor Bobkin said, once the IMF is coming to town and the central bank is withdrawn, okay, it just tells you that, well, this cannot be the end of the central bank's intervention. I'm sure when the IMF leaves, the central bank will look at them. Yes, because certainly, I mean...
They always do.
Yes, yes. When the sheriff is out of the town, then they will have a field day. Or when the cat is away, then the mouse will play. Yes, we would need them to consistently intervene. But of course, you are making the point that it was excessive, right? Yes, but as for the intervention, as I've said, I've grown up with it over 2 decades. Like, I mean, those days from business school. And I always remember the US-China wars over this currency thing. You open, like you go to America, you watch TV, and then the locals are railing. Businesses are railing that, no, China is fixing the currency. China is fixing the currency. China is fixing their currency. And making...
They wanted to promote their export.
Excellent, you know. And look, over time, you know how much the US owes China?
Yeah.
Lots of money, beyond your imagination. So,
the trade deficit.
Yes, over 20 years, consistently fixing their currency to make sure that their exports are what? Cheaper. And it's worked for them. It's worked for them. So for me, I mean, from what I've seen, you know, when you see something at a youthful age and eventually at this age, you've seen that China is top. They're like, let our central bank do it. I mean, the IMF can complain from time to time. Look, truth be told, this whole IMF checking and all this, they are also part of the problem. They are also part of the problem.
In the IMF?
Yes. They've always been a part of the problem. IMF and World Bank. Look, FinSAP, PAMSCAT, Structural Adjustment Program, right? All of them, check all the IMF programs. People will tell you that these are a scratch on the surface. Deal with the root causes. But they appear to do so, but soon the politics of the IMF, World Bank catches up, and then they don't hold us to account. So the programs don't achieve the desired results, and yet they make money off us. Yes.
Hang on a minute. They don't hold us to account, is what you were saying.
Yes.
But if we can't discipline ourselves, we expect somebody from outside to come and discipline us.
But it's our money they use in developing. You know how much slavery made them, etc. We haven't received reparations.
That's a completely different argument.
So it's an argument to make that morally they owe us a duty to help.
Agreed.
Yes, so the terms are not good enough.
But the challenge I have is that we seem to go away, walk around with a victim mentality.
It's not victim. It's reparation.
And to say that, somebody always has to come and hold a big stick over our heads before we do the right thing.
They took our resources away.
Other countries that do the right thing.
So, gentlemen,
they took our resources away. They took our human beings, took our gold. Till date, they are taking. Okay, and taking. And we're saying that return something substantial.
Well, in the end.
So they are a big part of the problem.
Yes.
They are big. IMF, World Bank, they are actually the cause of our problem. Their politics is too much.
We will still have to do our own homework well. I mean, they are there. If we get things right.
We have our money in their
pockets. If we get things right, we're not going to have to go to them begging or seeking an intervention with all the conditionalities that comes with it.
You didn't get the right price for your gold and cocoa. You haven't seen cases of LIBOR being rigged. The cocoa and the gold prices, who determines? The thing is so clean. But people were convicted for rigging LIBOR, Barclays Bank, the employees, etc. You see it. Of course. So this is a very complex thing. Sometimes, look, don't just think that these Bretton Woods institutions, they are there for you. No, they are there to continue to press you down. That's what the whole system is about. So when you just sit and think anything IMF throws at you is kosher, we are wrong. Look, you've forgotten the history. In the 80s, the Jamaican Prime Minister, Manley, okay, yes, and then other African countries came together. They said, listen, this World Bank, IMF terms are not good. They want a new development bank that would be softer, that would cater to us developing countries. What did the Prime Minister of UK, Margaret Thatcher at the time, say? And the President of the US, Reagan? They said no, they would not. So they opposed the formation of the development bank that would properly help us. And they continue this IMF World Bank thing. So right from day one, the whole system is being rigged. It's been rigged. You take our resources through slavery, you take our gold, you take our cocoa, okay, very cheap. Then it comes in very expensive, right, in chocolate, etc. And you think the system will ever be fair? No. So a huge part of it is the IMF World Bank system, this Bretton Woods institution. They are a great chunk of our poverty. You've taken so much. Give us in reparations. Let's agree that, look, give us so much back in reparations. Let's see. Bank of England, U.S. Federal Reserve. You know how much they were making from slavery? You know how much they were making from slavery? Today they are there. You think they got it free? They took our resources. So return part. Make it more beneficial to us. The current system doesn't help us. Apart from our structural problems. Yes, I recognize Gadgisberg and the rest. But I'm saying that if they really want, look at even this, the last IMF program. We all know that, look, this asset declaration law is such a huge problem. So civil society fought and they added it that, okay, let's strengthen the asset declaration law. How many years so? You see, the law has not been passed. Akufo-Addo kept promising from one bar.
And the IMF couldn't.
Exactly. I tell you that IMF, this conspiracy, until you understand their politics, and yet they are making money off us. So you think they do it for free? They take fees.
Remember
take fees.
Remember that the IMF, the World Bank, they are banks.
They're banks.
Like what the money is.
No, my point is that we should apply our own discipline. Nobody is out there for us. Nobody is out there for us. We are responsible for our welfare. We are responsible for rooting out corruption. We are responsible for being disciplined. And
you see Ofuriata, you see FBI, you see they are being slow.
Okay, but you see, now, but I think that the issue is in as much as in as much as there would be some legitimacy to the issues that Amatik Noble raises.
If you read the literature,
certainly
it's well grounded.
Yes, it does not also take away our domestic responsibility to ensure that we do what is within our control.
The man is sitting on your neck.
But it doesn't mean they are not the ones who engineer corruption amongst us in any way. Here,
they are an integral part of it.
Government officials engaging in corruption.
Where does the money go?
Government officials engaging in corruption.
They are the enablers. The money, where does it go? Is the money not in the US, UK, and what are you saying?
No.
They are the enablers. The Western countries. They are the enablers. That's where the money is.
Of what exactly?
The corruption. Where is the money today? Where is Ofuriata? Where is most of his resources? It's in the US.
But how
UK, the other countries
you're talking about the IMF and the World Bank. I mean,
yes, but where did they come from? Who controls them?
How do you then pin it down to
the IMF belongs to the Europeans, then the World Bank to the Americans. Oh, you don't know? That's the convention.
But you're talking about they being enablers of
yes, that's the enabling.
That's where there's a point of
because where is the money? Where is the money? Follow the money. You will find out that it's in their banks.
Okay. If we put structures in place to deal with the corruption, we're not going to be talking about the enablers. That's why you point to asset declaration as one of the measures that you were hoping to be put in place to deal with public sector corruption or corruption among government officials. That's what we wanted. It's within our control. We made that proposal, and the IMF bought into it. It was added to part of the conditionalities. Now, there has not been materialized. That act of we demanding that assets should be declared publicly is within our control. It's a measure that we would have exacted, or we are still demanding. Whether the IMF likes it or not, can we use other means to achieve the same purpose of having the asset declaration law reviewed? Because the president has said it. It is not dependent on the IMF to dictate whether or not asset declaration is reviewed to have it now get that clause of publication and verification of our assets. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, for me, I think it's within their mandate. That's why they agreed. If they couldn't help, then why is it part of the agreement?
So if the IMF doesn't now agree to it, we can't do anything about it?
We saw that the politicians would not do it readily. So quickly we saw that, okay, the IMF is the one giving this money. He who pays the piper calls the tune. So we agreed that, okay, let's pass it there. And the IMF agreed, and now the IMF is dancing, okay, kabuki. Yeah, it's become theater. The Americans call it kabuki theater. Oh, you will dance, but nothing will come out of it. It's become theater. How many years on? You see, so if they thought they couldn't do it, why did they agree? Is it part of the deception? If you say you will not help us to pass an asset declaration law, why did you add it to the agreement? Simple. Is it to deceive us citizens? Is it to deceive us? So that is it. I tell you, as for this, they are on our necks. They are actually, look, if we made the system right, okay, with these Bretton Woods institutions, a lot, we'll get funds cheaper, etc., then they'll be more committed. Because like you said, look at PAMSCAD, all the projects. Today, you go out and they'll come and say, no,
okay,
bring this IMF this in program. Then, after 3-4 years, we are back. Now 17 times. So since independence, every about 4 years or so, we are back with them. So what? So what kind of institution are you that the person keeps coming to borrow all the time? You can't help.
They are a bank, so they don't want to lose a faithful client.
So is it how banking is tricky? Banking is tricky.
Thank you. But so that we also don't lose sight of what is our responsibility, the responsibility of leadership, to do what is within our control, to ensure that we get things right and not push over that responsibility and always blame an external intervention for what we have to do. I think that's where my point of departure is. But within this third quarter, the central bank made a little over $120 million available for these bulk oil distributors to import finished products into the country. I bring this in because of where you sit, okay? And the interaction of your work with the currency and what is happening right now. The president has talked about the appreciation of the cedi and how that interacted with other sectors within the economy and how much we were losing. This withdrawal of the intervention by the central bank in the market, plus the fact that the president says we're looking for the true value of the cedi. How are the coming months going to look like? And how will that also interact with the various sectors of the economy as we have seen in the last 8 months?
Okay, so Alfred, once again, good morning. I think it's only fair that I acknowledge my senior brother Martin Kwebu for his consistency. Much earlier I was listening, because I was listening on radio.
That's true.
When he made his initial comments relative to the issues about arrests, detention, refusal of bail, and others. I think his consistency is admirable.
Indeed.
In every society, particularly democratic as we have it, you need gadflies like Kwebu to consistently give the horse a bit of a stink to keep it, moving. What I find troubling is when I listen to people like Godfrey Adame and co. pontificate on due process, the rule of law, among others. Their experience is extremely horrible. It's a past that we should never go back. Because you see, I've always maintained I've been a man, like you say, a man in the arena in some of these matters. And I saw how the law was weaponized to achieve certain outcomes that were extremely troubling. Thankfully, relative to the matters involving Abronye, the government of Ghana has nothing to do with it. If you look at the charge sheet, it has to do with the fact of maybe the IGP and some other issues emanating from that. But what we will not take is moral lessons on how the law should work from the likes of Godfrey Adame and co. I mean, I do not want to go to the past and trying to revive some of these conversations.
Please do. He has to be punished for it.
To revive some of this conversation. But you see, Martin's advocacy on the issues of bail to the point of even going to the Supreme Court,
Yeah.
particularly following the decision in Goldman,
Yeah.
where more or less the court took a position that bail for certain offense is non-bailable and others. And getting the same court to intervene again to say that, you know what, we think with the benefit of hindsight, all offenses should be bailable. Unless, of course, the bail conditions and others. I remember vividly, there was a guy, and I'll tell you the story. There was a guy who was my party member. Then he had done a video, and in the video had, made certain comments against IGP Dampare.
Yeah.
And the Minister of Interior, what's the name? The last Minister of Interior, Henry Quartey. Quickly, they issued a statement for his arrest and declared him wanted. So, as usual, Director Legal there, I was approached. Then I said, look, on these matters, you are better off going to the police than being arrested. At least when you get arrested, it affects your bail application and others. So I spoke to the family that wherever he is, he should be allowed to go to, and got him a lawyer. The guy went to the police and they arrested him and detained him. All attempt to get him bail became a problem because he had threatened Dampare. Immediately he was processed for court. I remember we approached the judge in open court for bail. And so this young man, upon hearing his name, he himself walked to the police. If he wants to run away, he wouldn't have come. So on these grounds, he should be granted bail. The judge refused. At that time, Godfrey Adame was the Attorney General of the Republic. He was the Attorney General and he knew what was going on. You know what the judge even told her? That he won't grant bail and that he will do expeditious trial.
Jesus Christ.
And guess what? Because of the schedule, because of election, I pleaded with my senior, Francis Xavier, to help with the defense. Guess the judge was doing the trial every day. There are times my senior, Francis Xavier, will be late. The judge will ask the accused person to defend himself.
Hey.
And sometimes tell him, do the cross-examination yourself. Until she ended up convicting him for 4 years. Yes, my branch executive in Soweto this year. Godfred was the Attorney General. They just said no bail, not even with this one that the day is given, it will be reconsidered and all of those things. He's around. It was just until 4 years. It's just until recently that we did bail pending the appeal, that it was considered and he was granted bail. This is a horror that we've had to endure over the period. So sometimes when I see the pontification, I agree. Why would you use bail as a tool for punishment? What if at the end of the day you find a person not guilty? What would have been the end when you have already kept the person? But the lessons we will not take from people who want to tell us what the law should be today. When we look at their horrible record, I personally, I don't even have an opinion on these matters because, look, Abronye at the least is a personal friend. When I was regional deputy youth organizer for Greater Accra NDs, he was the Bono youth organizer. And anytime I met him on radio, he would tell me he is my senior. I should respect him because he's the substantive and I'm a deputy, so I should respect him. So I have that, relationship with Kwame.
Okay.
At the barest least, I mean, I've read the ruling by the judge where he appears to caution all of us in our political engagement that we can do the politics with language that at least resonates. Thankfully, our politics is a cross-fertilization of ideas. The superior idea at the end of the day will win. The bread and butter issues.
We hope so.
No, I'm just saying, and that is what has shaped my personal politics. No, my personal politics that I have done. I mean, from TV3 2012 up to now, I will make my point forcefully I won't come here and say, Seb, you are so no, I won't do it.
Indeed.
At least Mr. Jackson will call me and then give me a small knock and say,
Yeah.
So I think we can do better. We can always reform our laws. Yes. Our laws are supposed to be growing because we are growing, society.
Absolutely.
But some of the language and others, we can moderate it for the sake of our democracy. But that said, let me go
on the back of this, I received a swell of messages that we weren't on social media at the beginning of the program for the first 40 minutes or so. I need to apologize for this. Quite a number of your messages. Sorry about it that we didn't start the stream for the first 40 minutes of the program. Apologies for this. There was a little technical hitch, but we're truly sorry about this. So the comment that Lawyer Martin Bebo made about Abronya, that's why we got a number of, but those who are...
No, I just felt
but
it's important that I acknowledge
I just had to,
his consistency.
Yes.
People like Martin, part of our democracy, we owe it to them.
Thank you.
The growth of our law. There are things that Martin has done, admirable, and we need to always applaud him for. And we need those voices.
He's an authority now.
We need those voices.
I mean,
And in most of these advocacies, he did it pro bono.
Yeah,
Indeed.
Pro bono.
So, Pebo number 1, 2, 3, 4.
All the Quebus. I mean, if you pick our law report, I'm sure one of the names, I think Alfred Ocansey,
Yes.
your good self,
Asari.
Kweku,
Asari. Azar.
in terms of the advocacy in Professor Stephen
Yeah,
Asari.
he's the one I mean.
They have been extremely well, and their consistency is admirable. It matters not who is in power, but what we should not allow for hypocrites
Yes.
to confuse public discourse. That we must send a strong message. But that said, I think that where there is bail should be given. Why not? If the people can post all the things that you need, just to ensure that the person is not flight free. Somebody was telling me that Abronya had written to the embassies that he's under political persecution, and for that matter, he had become flight free. I said, no. I mean, the law doesn't really work. It doesn't work that way. So that said, I think that we can just leave it. But on the substantive issue of the CD and the matters, I want to borrow the timeless words of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. He says, when in doubt, observe the exchange rate. It is within that context that I think that we should look at this particular discussion. And that is why it weighs strongly on the president for he himself to make some comments related to this matter. Globally, no government would want to leave the exchange rate for market forces. It doesn't happen anywhere. Thankfully, at least for my first degree, I had the benefit of reading some economics. And so I remember there was a level 200 course, Economy of Ghana, that you have to do. And if you look at the data, the numbers all over, it shows that government has always had a critical role to play in what happened with your exchange rate. And so that whole idea that just leave market forces, and sometimes these market forces are driven by profit and more profit. And so when you have such situation, government must definitely have a way of intervening. The historical data will show, be it the Chinese, the Americans, or the Canadians, or what, or the Englishmen, they had always found a way of keeping their exchange rate. Either one, to keep their exports cheaper. Because they want to attract more people to buy their product. That is how they grow their economy. You need to buy American car. But in the market, you have an American car, you have a Chinese car, you have a Japanese car. You understand? Chinese, Japanese car all competing. For a rational buyer, you are looking for cheaper prices. And that is what comes because you want to look at the exchange rate.
Cheaper prices with some level of quality.
And so, beyond the quality, a rational person is also looking at pricing.
Yes.
It's a key consideration when you want to buy anything.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that we must always appreciate is that, look, this economy under Minister Atuforsen is curious, and we are not looking at it. Prof can confirm. It's been 8 months without any significant foreign intervention per se in the management of the exchange rate. Why do I say so? By April 2017, Minister Ken Ofori-Atta had already gotten the Franklin Templeton 2.25 billion to shore up the reserves. That was a significant intervention. It just didn't happen because some people needed to manage the reserve in such a way as to send a message to the market that you have enough forex in the system. It's been 8 months. Have you heard of any such thing? No. By October 2017, we had already reached out to the Eurobond market and started borrowing. So in the period of 6 years, we have done in excess of $13 billion of bonds to shore up the city. Have we done the same thing? No. You notice that each year, by this time, we're already talking about cocoa syndicated loans. This year, that conversation is no longer there. So what it tells you is that, and like Prof said, just by looking at spending and the cuts in spending, a lot had happened. BOG itself, through its interventionist policies, has already mopped out of the system over 60 billion Ghana cedis. And that is what you notice, that from the inflationary end, the market appears to be contracting just to keep the economy in check. And that is what you notice, that inflation. Because at a point, it was obvious that Bank of Ghana's intervention in printing more cedis into the system also fueled the inflationary pressure that we're seeing. That appears to have a reversal.
Absolutely.
As we speak today, the benefit, and like Prof, I want to reference him. He said, look, the fact that inflation is coming down does not mean prices of goods and services naturally must also come down. What it simply gives you an indication that prices at least will have a certain level of predictability for the purposes of planning. That is key. But today, this government under Minister Atuforsen has successfully managed the dynamics of the exchange rate without that significant foreign involvement. In the sense that we are here to do Eurobond, we are here to do cocoa syndicated loan. Possibly the gold board intervention has been a game changer that you cannot run away from. Look, the gold reserve that we've gotten in 8 months is more than everything that we've gotten for the entire 2024. Just by, plucking the smuggling, among other things, with what Gold Board is doing. So that is a significant intervention. The issue of Gold Board was not wishful thinking. It has to take men to come out with that innovation. It has never been. What we had in the past was PMMC. It never intervened in this matter in keeping the stability of the city. So we should always get it right that government of Ghana, one way or the other. Look, as for the IMF and these issues, Martin had elucidated on the literature significantly. Why do I say so? The IMF, first of all, is not Father Christmas. It's a bank. Like you go for loan from anybody, they pick interest rates on the loans they give you. Just that they don't call it loan, they call it bailouts. But it's a loan. At the end of the day, you have to pay it. And we are still servicing part of our loans with them. As we speak now, the conversation in mighty UK is that the opposition leader in UK is calling the government to provide its economic plan because it risks going to the IMF for a bailout. Yes, even in mighty United Kingdom. As we speak today, President Donald Trump is having, a conversation relative to the removal of the chair of the Federal Reserve. Why do you think so?
Over the cutting of
Yes, because the president wants interest rates manipulated in a particular manner. The professionals are not allowing that. And so the president says, I have removed you because I want somebody who will come and do what I want at the Federal Reserve. This mighty United States of America. So under no circumstance should the government say, look, I'm just going to wait for market forces to just play it out. More so when they are driven by all the other issues you can think of. Look, you pointed it right. It's a system we inherited, where every quarter we go to the Bank of Ghana to auction forests to the various bulk oil distributing, the ones with the buyback license. That intervention has been greatly helpful. BOG under Governor Esiama has a different approach to it. But again, it's just a matter of making the forest available. The thinking is that it is not all the forests that they even get that they use. Some are even thinking, and like the president made the point, that you have a situation where somebody tells you that I am importing X amount of product. And if you look at the data, huge billions of dollars moved, but you don't have corresponding imports
Coming in.
So
$42 billion.
What is
over the past 4 years?
So what it means is that people are using all of these mechanisms to do their own things. So the dynamics in the market ensures that the state must always keep its eye, because immediately you take your eyes off, they begin to do their own thing. And that is what we cannot let go. It becomes extremely dangerous. Now, as to the true value of the city, where I sit, if it comes to 8, I'll be happy.
Hold on.
I'm coming.
I think I'm going to send for you.
And this is so selfish in the sense that if it comes to 8, at least petroleum prices will drop for consumers. And for me, that's where my excitement comes from. You understand?
These are the trade-offs.
Yes. But you see, the other thing too is that you are bringing products up. And sometimes your tax revenue, the benchmarking is even done in the dollar, the duties and others. So immediately it goes beyond certain level too, you also suffer. We need the taxes, the duties and others to build the roads, the big push among others. And so usually you just have to do a balancing act. I strongly believe that if we can get to the point where we even maintain it at 10, will be significantly good.
Joe Jackson.
It is possible. It is possible over time, over a long period of time, when there's economic transformation.
When there is a transformation of the way this economy functions.
But say, the challenge is that the bulk of the things Ghanaians consume are from outside.
And we want to change that.
The Gettysburg economy.
No, but you see, it's a long-term conversation in terms of the structural change.
I have a slightly different view on this matter.
Quickly.
That the problem is not our imports. Otherwise, why are we getting positive balances of trade? The problem is elsewhere in the capital account. The problem is in transfers outside, because we don't own this economy.
It's true.
The problem is in
look, I agree with you.
The debt servicing, because of our high debt service rate.
At the risk of mentioning names, so maybe MTN declares profit at the end of the day. The principal shareholder is not, quote unquote, a Ghanaian. So he has to move his profits definitely outside. He's not going to move that profit in Ghana cedis. Or he's going to do that. No. You move it like the many other companies. I just use.
But some of us say that there should be a deliberate policy to create Ghanaian ownership of this economy. After all,
that one is something we all agree.
Until we do that, all we are doing is shipping
the money away.
Good.
Look at the financial sector. How many of our commercial banks are
senior
in Ghana?
Yes.
Senior,
How many are principal shareholders outside?
So senior,
Thank you.
Senior.
Hold on.
So look at these two, the banking and the financial sectors. What are the time when they begin to put out their books? Between March, April, correct?
Yes. A lot of companies have their financial year ending 31st December.
Exactly.
And
so by January, February, March. So if you look at the cyclical nature of our forex dynamics, you see that by March, April, it starts going up again. That's the time they are moving their funds out. Then by September, October, like we are seeing now, the imports,
ahead of
the Christmas, orders are also coming. And so there are always two times.
True.
March, April, now to November. The dynamics are always. And that is why in the past, for the past 8 years, you notice that around April, March, we do the Eurobond. The roadshow starts in earnest by February. So by March, April, the Eurobond will quickly come in. And then by September, October, the cocoa syndicated loan will come in.
That is even not the only thing. Beyond that, the central bank also does swap arrangements.
Exactly.
Okay, to manage
so if you want
expectation was that
cocoa syndicated loans and
the expectation was that because of how the uptick of the city was experienced over the last at least 6-7 months, maybe this year would have been an outlier. So
complete outlier because of the interventions that we've had in the past. Because by now, like Cocoa Board is all over the world looking for money. And the announcement will be coming. Oh, the Cocoa Board, the 1.2 billion Edeba. All those ones kill the speculation. But now, things are moving from 10 to almost 12 and beyond because the market is not hearing this kind of news. And that is what is fueling all of this. So I think, first of all, we need to applaud the managers of the economy in the past 8 months for at least the relative stability that we've seen. Atofo saying, Governor Esiama, who is really forcing and has forced Governor Esiama, my brother Sami Jemfi. This combination had provided a certain relative calmness in the system. The hits that we are seeing in these past few weeks is simply because of the fact that nobody is talking. Everybody is quiet. And the market is beginning to speculate that, why are they not talking? Is it because the reserve ABCD? And very soon, I am, from where I sit and what I know, the Honorable Atoforsin will soon speak.
Atoforsin will speak on this CD situation?
And the market, once again, the heat will calm down. I'm very confident about it.
Okay. Well, the most important thing is how the next few months will be like. And I want to stay on you, Mr. Auckland.
The turbulence?
Yes.
I mean, the turbulence, again, like I told you, the orders will definitely increase. It's the basic demand and supply. If you are making the orders for Christmas and others. And I was shocked to find out that if you look at the data, within this time, the things we consume in Christmas is amazing. We eat everything.
Consumption is good.
End result of production is good. The food one alone, 3 billion of imports. The rice, oil,
Yemuadie, and shockingly, even Yemuadie.
Actually, it's in the top 10.
It's shocking.
Why is it shocking? And from Kwame Nkrumah's time.
I thought the Yemuadie, they wait maybe Ghana.
No, but thank you. You see,
And even guess what? The amount of product we even bring, I mean agricultural product, from Burkina Faso here, even into Ghana,
Tomatoes,
the numbers are shocking.
onion, even from Niger.
Indeed.
A desert country.
And ginger.
So sometimes, and onion, tomatoes, wheat, among
Pepper.
others. Look, it's shocking.
is significant.
I sometimes I just have, maybe we need to go back and learn from the Chinese. It has always been said that nobody had
don't need to
grown
go anywhere.
Thank you. I need to
without
round up on
agri.
this. Yes. I need to round up on this.
Data. Look, these are the kind of things that policy making, when you hear, should cause you sleepless nights.
Yes.
And tell yourself no, and have clear timelines. But you see, we don't want to do the heavy lifting. And that is why you see so many people are speculating, because that is where they think they can make some spread money. Because we don't want to get to the real sector of the economy and do anything. People, that is not motivating. That is not rewarding. But and that is why we say, okay, trade, because some of these things that we import, we should be able to address them. Some of them, even 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, gradually. Let's have a clear plan. I'm hoping that since you are here, the 24-hour economy and the accelerated development will begin to break them down into actionable pillars.
You see, there's a man who heralds the 24-hour thing, Mr. Gusitando, a man I have great respect for. He's one such person whose eyes for results is huge. And for all of us, he's not allowing us to sleep over this issue of 24 hours. At my end, it's a sleepless night on the conversation, and he's doing so in many, many other places. And the president actually spoke about it when he met the media, that this is one area that once we're able to do some of these issues, we should have a reversal in how we have managed this Georgesburg economy over the period.
And now, so you talk about the turbulence. It's going to come. I mean, within the last quarter, we would experience some turbulence. But to what extent? And this is a minute or two each for you, Professor Bob King, and then also Joe Jackson. This turbulence in the last quarter, would it still be within the 12, 13 cities to the dollar? Or as we continuously see the demand for dollar for imports, as we have seen in the last quarter of the year, over the years, it could push the rate to a little over 13 cities from your own reading, all things being equal. Prof.
Well, I think that things are taking shape, and I believe that there should be no panic.
Okay.
There should be no panic. I think, as I indicated earlier, what we have seen is consistent with our expectations, okay, and all of that, so there should not be panic. I believe that if you look at where our reserves stand, and then also given that we have the 5th IMF review, they will be coming to town towards the end of this year, end of this month, to the first week of October, once we scale the wall and all of that. And I'm just hoping that government will put the data out there, because there are some structural benchmarks that we have to meet ahead of the 5th review. We are looking at end of June cutoff date, also including the audit of the arrears and all of that. Remember, we beyond satisfying IMF conditionalities as part of the 5th review, they need to also update us on how government is faring, because the information is not only for the IMF. And that is why sometimes you realize that we are a bit more accountable when we are under IMF than ourselves.
Precisely.
So I think I'm happy you said our minister will be giving us updates.
Updating the public.
Yes, and I believe that part of the update should also include some of these IMF reforms and all of that. Because sometimes we have our own indirect way of tracking ahead of their coming, whether we are on track and all of that. Once we are able to scale that wall, Alfred, that will give us more than $360 million. We've also picked news about the syndicated cocoa loan and all of that. We are hoping also that once we see this rate correction, we should see some kind of uptick in terms of remittances because the rate largely is becoming a bit more aligned with what the market expectation is with remittance. So if you look at it from all this, and I'm also happy what the president mentioned about demand for FX that is not matched by corresponding import and all of that. Look, this economy is rigged to a very large extent. And all of that, okay? So we need, and we sometimes, and this is how I feel, that officials and all of that, we are on fat salary, but we are sleeping on our jobs. Okay, in terms of the real monitoring and data and being on the ground and all of that and checking that, yes, what the papers passing around is also matched by the underground movement and all of that. So I think that if they can do a bit more on that angle, and then with the regulations, the directives, and all of that. Some directives, I think, beyond a certain point, they become counterproductive. We should not lean heavily on directives, regulations to solve certain problems that fundamental shift we should be looking at, and all of that. Of course, some of them will be medium to long term. But what I want to say finally is that there should be no panic. And I believe that the situation is
even risky. For me, where I see it, if your expectation is that the dollar will go up to 13, with what I know, in the coming days, you may become a big loser.
I see.
Under the circumstance.
So we should expect some interventions in the coming days.
What I know is that things will go down.
I see.
Yes. But like Prof said, as for it, we should never get there.
Mr. Jackson, please.
It's not one of my prayers.
Mr. Jackson,
we say
in a minute. So we go into the Galamsey.
It's self-fulfilling prophecy.
Exactly. Before long, it happens.
Indeed. Mr. Jackson, well, in a minute. Quick.
No, I stand with Prof on this issue. Let's calm down. Let's calm down. Let's back off. And I think there's a lot of speculation in the market, and it will be interesting if over the next few weeks we see the central bank dip its hands into stabilizing the market and making sure that we don't overshoot the estimates that they themselves have made, because overshooting those estimates will also bring a lot of pain into the market. Once again, stability is far more important than the actual rate itself.
And then also, finally, you see, because government is also preparing to open the bond market, I mean, we have peak signal that there's considerable interest, offshore investors who want to participate. That will also bring in FX, open that. So I think that if you look at the projection inflows, of course, demand is always high and all of that. I believe that there shouldn't be panic going forward.
Great. Quite a number of the messages I'll get into, and we'll go into the Galamsey conversation. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also now on the Voice of London Radio and then the Voice of London Television. Quite a number of the messages about the earlier technical hitch came from the people who usually watch us in the diaspora. This one here says, is Christmas import not evidence of how Christianity has made us reliant on the West and impacting on the Ghanaian cedi? What is the relationship between Christianity and the cedi depreciation during Christmas? Ask Prof and Eduji to explain. No, but you know what? I honestly, this is something that we would it's going to take. It's a whole topic on its own.
We tend to eat more during Christmas.
Absolutely. This one here says,
yes. Look, if we were able to, what we should be doing is how do we produce the things that we import in anticipation of Christmas? So that, because the end result of production is consumption. You need consumption to also stimulate the economy. So if we're producing these things ourselves, look, Alfred, you know why countries declare holidays? It's not because they want to go and sleep. It's to also stimulate consumption, festivals here and there. Countries spend billions to host World Cup. Can you imagine the consumption, the injection into the economy and all of that?
So thank you. Very important. Thank you very much. This one here says,
Black Friday.
Gentlemen, thank you. They says that the millionaires in Ghana. Thank you very much. Thank you. The millionaires in Ghana should invest in the country as well to boost the productivity. That's coming from Money was watching us on Facebook. This one here says, a simple study we have undertaken recently reveals that our trade and investment policies are so much aligned to attract and protect foreign companies at the expense of local businesses. Our trade policies taxes are skewed to make it absolutely difficult and most times impossible for local businesses to compete. Thank you very much for your message. This is from Guta. Charles Kusi Apia is the head of Business and Economic Bureau of the Ghana Union Trade Association, Guta. Is it? Yeah, yes. So he sent this message. This one here also, Honorable Niaiko too, I acknowledge the message that you sent, and you're also drawing our attention to the technical hitch on the stream earlier. Thank you very much. This one here says, the West claims to be the fighters of corruption, but when the people steal money and hide them in their country, they protect their loot. They then chase people to the third world country to retrieve your stolen monies. I think that's what Lamatic people, alluded to, and you are going on that tangent. This one here says, hi Alfred, the city-dollar relation, we need to take critical look at it again and again. We need to do more exports relative to what we produce locally. A big yes, but it doesn't stop there. Fact is, we produce crude oil locally. Question is, why export is relative to refining? Can't we refine crude oil here, save some dollars, and at the same time use it here instead of always importing refined ones? Eduji, Tamaklo, and the Tamara refinery, I know there's some conversation going on in that regard. In the part of last week.
Edmond Combat
Yeah.
is doing extremely well. He wants to bring Tema Oil Refinery back on the stream, and I think he needs our collective support. You can imagine how that will become a game changer for all of us.
Indeed. So we're going into our Galamsey conversation, and that was topical as well during the president's encounter with the media. A number of questions on it. The president spent quite some time talking about the Galamsey matter because, as we have stated in passing, we are spending over 11 million, in fact, 11 million, in excess of $11 million now to import water into this country. That is how serious the situation is getting. But there's some water I can tell you we are not importing into this country. And this is this water that you have seen being on the table for some time now. This is locally produced, fresh from the University of Ghana, where Professor Bobkin is. So, Prof, this is directly from your quarters, University of Ghana. This is the UG Premier Fresh Natural Mineral Water. We are not calling it natural mineral water just for the sake of it. It is indeed having all the properties in there to make it natural. The UG Premier Fresh Natural Mineral Water is a premium product of the University of Ghana, the commercial subsidiary of the University of Ghana, that's the UGEL. Our water is sourced from natural springs in the Ayikuma Enclave, where we strive to maintain its most natural form. Through reverse osmosis purification technology, we preserve essential natural minerals while ensuring the value. In fact, the quality of the water remains perfectly safe and healthy for drinking. You can call them on these numbers, tell them that you heard me talk about it on KeyPoint. They'll give you a very, very good experience and a good package. 056 181 4444. 056 181 4444 or 055 506 0150. 055 506 0150. Their depot is located at the University of Ghana, Liman Hall. And they have sachet water as well, 500 ml, affordable, everyday hydration. UGL premier fresh mineral water where purity meets refreshment. Because we're all alumni.
You know, everything about
So-
University of Ghana excites me.
Yes,
The university that has made at least some of us.
Yeah.
indeed.
All of us here.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, okay.
It's not surprising. Wait. It's
So-
not surprising. There's
so-
only one university in Ghana.
Okay, so there are quite a
You
few.
know, at the risk of annoying my friends, who attended Kumasi Lagos, I'll tell them that there's UG Premier Fresh Water.
And you all buy some as
We
well.
meet, we always say that there's only one university.
Yeah,
in
the
Ghana.
rest are others.
Talking about this, that leads us to Galamsey. Here's what the president said about Galamsey, specifically the calls for the declaration of a state of emergency. He says he's a bit reluctant to do that, and he explained why. Take a look.
Then we launched a code of conduct for public officials with an insistence on strict compliance. A high-level working group has been inaugurated to draft a new anti-corruption strategy aimed at strengthening ethical governance and institutional coordination. My fellow citizens, the scourge of Galamsey is receiving much attention. We've established the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat, NIMOS, as the Central Operations Command Center coordinating the national fight against illegal mining and its associated environmental degradation. In a coordinated effort across all security agencies and the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, 440 excavators have been seized. Over 1,400 arrests have been made, with suspects awaiting prosecution. Over 300 Shamfang machines have been confiscated and destroyed. Over 900 water pumps seized from illegal mining sites have been handed over to the Ministry of Agriculture for distributing to farmers for irrigation purposes. Of Ghana's 288 forest reserves, 44 had previously suffered varying degrees of destruction from illegal mining. Notably, 9 of those reserves had become no-go zones due to the presence of armed groups. Through the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources and with support from the security agencies, we've successfully repossessed all 9 of these red-zoned forest reserves. However, over the weekend, the Jimira Forest Reserve and the Anria Futu section of the Offense Shelter Belt was re-invaded by illegal miners after these were handed back to the Forestry Commission. The military is currently working with NIMOS to repossess those reserves and establish a permanent presence in those liberated forest reserves to prevent re-incursion by illegal miners. 980 personnel have been recruited, trained and deployed in the Western and Savannah regions. They conduct daily operations on major river bodies, serving as community vanguards to ward off illegal mining activities. An additional 1,020 personnel will be recruited and deployed by the end of the year, bringing the total force to 2,000 Blue Water Guards. In the Galamsey fight, because we've not exhausted the powers we even have without a state of emergency. We have the opportunity to arrest anybody, to confiscate any such thing. There are laws for forest protection and all that give us enough powers to be able to act. Implementing a state of emergency might sound nice, but it should be the last extreme, the last resort. So for now, let's exercise all the powers we have. And if it becomes necessary for a state of emergency, then we'll look at it. It means we have to go to Parliament. The president can't just declare a state of emergency without, going to Parliament, because there's a limit to how long you can maintain that state of emergency. And so I believe that we still have leverage to continue to fight Galamsey without necessarily implementing a state of emergency. It means that we have to delineate the areas where the state of emergency is operational. And if you look at the area where Galamsey is taking place, it covers several districts of our country. And so we would do it if it becomes necessary. But for now, I think that we've given the security services enough powers to be able to deal with people who are found to be involved in Galamsey.
That's the President, John Dramani Mahama, there. Says he has explained why he is reluctant to declaring the state of emergency, but that did not sit well with a section of the Ghanaian populace, especially civil society. Awula Sewa is a co-founder and executive director of Eco-Conscious Citizens. He's going to be joining us in the studio shortly. But Professor Godfred Bobkin as well was, or is part of the coalition against illegal mining, talked about this consistently over time. Even though, Prof, this call for a state of emergency found favor amongst the NDC while in opposition. But the president says that it is not at the moment, he's actually reluctant to declaring the state of emergency because he's looked at the powers available now. The result of a state of emergency can be achieved through other means in terms of the fight against Galamsey. Does that satisfy the concerns that you had? And will that be an effective approach to achieve the same results if a state of emergency was declared in this Galamsey fight?
Alfred, to be very honest with you, when it comes to fighting illegal mining, call it Galamsey, we are not attaching the urgency that is needed in addressing this particular issue. The president, and you see, consistency, policy credibility, and all of that matters a lot. The president was with us when he was in opposition. We were all at the same level in terms of the diagnosis of the issues and the approach. And I believe that in all those discussions, we had considered all these options. That the president now says that the powers have not been exhausted and all of that, and therefore, this should be a last resort. We are not disputing that. I believe that, and we are of the view that we are actually at the point where we need to trigger the last resort.
Which is the state of emergency?
Yeah, because you know why? When we say last resort, it's not like saying that it should not be used at all. We have been at this not in a year, 2 or so, and all of that. And if you check the evidence, recently we read that the water some branch in the central region has been shut down.
Yes, in fact, that's the Kwenyako headworks.
If you look at the information NADMO put out, I think about 2 weeks or so, the number of people who have died in Galamsey pit, in the central region, and the rest of them. Look, we are not, I'm getting a bit emotional about this because I don't know how to put it without coming across as being disrespectful. We were not brought up that way. But our leaders are pushing us to the point where we are unable to find words to express how we feel. We are not only talking about what we have seen and all of that, we are talking about things that we have also seen about the future of this country, and we should be concerned. Look, I'll talk about some study we participated in recently. There is this narrative, and it's a deception, that because of unemployment, sustaining livelihoods, that is why income level, that's why people are into this Galamsey. A lot of the people you see there, they are using them as face shield. This illegal mining has not really benefited the low-end people in those communities. In the first place, look, if you check the data, since we saw this escalation in illegal mining, between 2012 and to date, poverty reduction really has worsened. Check the data. So if we are saying that so many Ghanaians who are in these Galamsey is because of lack of employment, alternatives, and the rest of them, it's not impacting their lives. Those vulnerable, poor Ghanaians are not the ones importing these excavators and the rest of them. Okay, this is a clear case of hijack. Some few people, greedy people who don't have this nation at their heart, politically connected, and all of that. If we are not careful, we will die in this. When some few people have benefited from this. Look at it this way. If you look at the numbers, between 2012, in fact, poverty reduction actually stopped somewhere 2012. If you look at it in terms of international poverty, it has worsened. In fact, we visited some of the mining communities just to also, there are some things you use to check whether there's transformation in people's lives and all of that. They have nothing to show for. People are wasting their lives. People are dying in those pits. People are taking too much risk. But if you look at the value chain, just some few people, I hope you understand that, mostly in the urban areas who are profiting from this. Yes, profiting from this. And is the reason, and they have, and you see the link with the political financing regime schemes and all of that, which more or less makes it difficult for people in power to take the right decision. I have heard, and I suspect, I could be wrong, Ghanaians should forgive me, there is this understanding somewhere within, I'm sure even within government, that if we declare state of emergency, if we aggressively fight this, it will cause structural break in gold production, and therefore the cedi will depreciate, and then all of that. That's a lie. The president, during the encounter with the media, told us that we have not borrowed from the international capital market, but we have some level of stability with the currency. Who told us that without gold, we cannot have a currency? Who told us that? And who says that we cannot do responsible mining? We are not calling for a total ban, I hope you understand that, and all of that. We are calling for responsible mining. We should bear in mind, whatever legacy the president wants to leave, he should remember that his legacy will not be determined just within the 4 years. In the next 10, 15 years, everything will look infinitesimal in the face of devastation that the environment is going to cause to all of us. We don't need a prophet to tell us we are heading dangerously. The data is very clear. We face existential threat. And you see, I don't know how to put it, but for me, I think the president, I have a lot of respect for this government, for the president, but I am very sorry, Mr. President, you are failing on this one. As a leader,
on the fight against Galamsey?
He is failing. The president can do something about this. There's a lot that the president can do. As a leader, you don't pick and choose where you want to succeed.
Well, but you heard him why he said he's reluctant.
I disagree.
In declaring the state of emergency.
I disagree. I have the right to disagree. And I think that we are not attaching the level of urgency in fighting this simply because of personal interest, political interest, self-interest. This is greed. This is evil that will consume others and itself. How should we put this without coming across as being disrespectful? I am afraid the president is going the same way that the former president went and lost our respect.
You mean Akufo-Addo?
Yes.
But he says that
this is the optimal time for the president to take those decisive actions, because when the election is getting closer, the dynamics are different. You see how difficult it was last year with all the pressure and all of that. Do you know something? I'm saying this, I'm calling on TUC, I'm calling on all religious bodies, every serious-minded Ghanaian who cares about this country, okay, to rise up. When I say rise up, I don't know how to, I'm not looking at it in a certain
revolutionary manner.
Whatever, but please, this is the time to speak up. This is the time to save Ghana. If we want to, look, there's a proverb in the Bible. The Bible says that the fathers have eaten the sour grapes and the children's teeth have been set on edge. When God said that this proverb will not be repeated in Israel, we are fast repeating this proverb here. Anyone buying gold from Ghana, you are buying blood. This is blood gold. You are buying organs of innocent people. People are born without part of their organs. How many people should die? Where should we get to before we say that we should trigger the last resort? I'm afraid. I'm disappointed. Mr. President, I believe that you have a good heart. If you want to leave a legacy, your legacy should last in the next 10, 50, 60 years. That is why we still mention Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. I didn't live during his days. But when I read the literature and I see the infrastructure he did, I'm not sure some of the decisions he took in those days were popular among his colleagues. But he did so because he had the next generation in mind. This is, Mr. President, you are failing. Mr. President, please sit up. We don't want to lose our respect for you. We were not brought up to be disrespectful to elderly people. Let's not tempt ourselves to the point where we can't hold back or we can't, engage in meaningful conversations devoid of emotions. I don't know how to put this. I'm scared for Ghana. If anything will cause me to leave this country, it will be irresponsible mining.
Galamsey. Well, Matibabu, you see, the president, in taking that position that he is reluctant to implement a state of emergency in Galamsey now, predicated his position on the fact that, one, we've not exhausted the powers we have without a state of emergency, and then also that implementing a state of emergency might sound nice, but it should be the last resort. So for now, he's exercising all the powers that he has, and if it becomes necessary for a state of emergency, then we'll look at it. Also, Professor Bob King says this is the time. It has become necessary. That last resort has to be resorted to right now. Is that the same path that you are on? Are we at that point?
Okay, good. So, it matters like this. Let's go with as we are all advocating, the scientific approach. Coming in here, I came in with data that we had 9 forests under siege. Mm-hmm. We took them back, and then 2 fell back to the Galamseyers.
Yes.
And that, as of the time the president was giving his, as of the time the president was in the encounter, mm-hmm. efforts were being made to take back those 2, right? So I'm looking at the data. So that is what I have. If there is anything else we can add. So when I look at it from that perspective, then it appears to me, and also with the comments that Erastus Asaridonko, who is, admittedly a key watcher of the space, he came out with his verdict that the fight now is far better than the fight under Akufo-Addo's government. So for me, I kind of see it as, okay, work in progress. And so that's where Professor Bobkin's exhortation comes in, that the president should up the game. Yes, what Professor Bobkin has done, of course, we all know somebody has to cry out loud, even when the president is working hard. That's human nature. You would hardly get 100% everybody applauding the president. No. In the nature of, you remember earlier on, Eduji referred to the gadfly. So you go into philosophy, in every society, you always have a gadfly, right? That's a person who would say it raw as it is. Yes. So Professor Bobkin is doing it in that manner to urge President Mahama to up the game. So it's fine. It's within. It's okay. But going by the data that I'm using, that 9 forests gone, but retrieved, and then 2 fell and are being taken over. Did I even hear after the speech that about a day or so after that, yes, the military had ended up, or whoever.
I don't have that update, but I will check.
Okay, so viewers can bring us information. So if you look at it from that perspective, and also coupled with the fact that right now efforts are being made to repeal the law, the LI 2462, and also the fact that our beloved Etiwa Forest, for now, even though we haven't finished our court case, I see Awula Sewa here. She's one of the plaintiffs in the case, Arocha, and some CSOs, including Awula Sewa. Yes, though we've not finished. You see that our society collectively, we've decided that no, there will be no mine in Etiwa, right? So when I add all of this, then I'm like, okay, So the fight is on. This looks better. This definitely looks better. I'm not saying everything is rosy. No, it's not hunky-dory. Not hunky-dory at all. But definitely from the verdict that has been given, the fight is getting better. And so that's how Professor Bobkin's strong statement comes in. That, look, in our society, you'll never get 100%, okay? So get on with it. Maybe for the first time you want to try. So then get on with it. So by all means, let's keep speaking, but it appears on the ground that, at least from what I have seen, the fight is better.
So the reference is made to the stance that the NDC took while in opposition about this state of emergency. Because at the time, if at the time that call was relevant, it was urgent.
Yeah.
A year ago.
Good.
A year on, why the reluctance?
Oh, good question. So, now, Mr. Ocansey, you can check online. Check to see if at any point in time, I ever supported the call for a state of emergency. You won't find me.
I'm not talking about you.
Yeah, so I'm developing the point.
Yeah.
So the point was that even last year, when the statement the president made is a master stroke, that we've not exhausted the use of the laws that we have. And so, number one, he himself admits that he stopped the IG's task force on Galamsey because he thought there were abuses here and there.
Yes.
What maybe we can send to the president as a follow-up is that, so when is IG Onu's task force going back? That's the most critical thing. When is the task force, together with the NIMOS, National is it Action? Okay, sorry. The National Anti-Illegal Mining Secretariat. So he says, he says there were abuses. So that day when I followed the conversation, I was interested in, okay, so when are they returning? Because he said they couldn't distinguish illegals from legals.
Yes.
So then that would have required a recce, where an advanced team will go and be taught, or that's shown which are the legal concessions and which are the illegals. Study them well on maps, etc. before IG's team goes back. So, I mean, the point, and that's what I stand to be corrected. I can't.
Gold Board, Bank of Ghana, they should give us the list of mining companies they've been buying gold from and where they are located.
No problem. Let's come to this. So when you go to article, so that I'll come back on, okay, let's address that. So you see, the president himself said it at a point that, look, whether they bought for legals or illegals, generally now is benefiting us. You heard Edwigi's point. No, I'm coming. Let's the statement. Listen, what he means is that, look, the illegals were going out, right, through some other channel. You see, sometimes it's difficult. Yeah, I know it. I think we should say it so that we will see what is wrong and then we can correct it. What he's saying is a fact on the ground, that even if they purchase illegals.
That's even if.
Even if. That's a conditional clause. Previously, these were going to some private people who were taking this money out, and the dollars not coming in. But right now, through Gold Board, what they've pitched is 4 billion. It said, it's never happened. 4 billion, even in less than or about 6 months. It's never happened. So sometimes the practical aspect of it, that I think that, like he's saying, facing realities. That's the thing. Sometimes in politics, when you speak the truth, you will be crucified. That's how come you see sometimes politicians are forced to lie to us here and there, because the truth can be quite difficult. That's not the main point. We are just talking about the main point is that you're asking me, the president says we've not exhausted the remedies or the facilities and
powers
available to us under normal law. And so why do we rush to a state of emergency? And I say, yes, I agree. Because look, when you read Article 31 here, look, the part, let's go, when you, just to summarize all the procedure, when I talk about Article 31 of the Constitution, that's the article on the state of emergency. Is the 3110, which says that during any period when a state of emergency is enforced, so a government can take any measures that are reasonably justifiable for the purposes of dealing with the situation that exists. So that's a nebulous statement. So you ask ourselves, as I said, this is where I'm being humble, I want to learn. what we have now, IG's men who were withdrawn and whom we are asking the president to send back after the NIMOS, that's the National Anti-Illegal Mining Secretariat, showing them the right places. Okay. Apart from these things, if we declare the state of emergency today, what else would we be doing? Are you going to declare a state of emergency on paper? Of course, as I said, we are leaving out the issue of Council of State, Parliament, and the rest. But I mean, if everything is done and the state of emergency is on paper, what else? So practically, you need the police to go and enforce. So how is that different from saying, okay, look, the police have been educated about the concessions, so let them go now. Okay. What is different? So, state of emergency is not a magic wand by itself. It's a declaration. Right. When you are done, you still need this police to go and enforce the law. So currently under the law, we can send police there, IG's men and the NIMOS people can go and do the work. So as I say, I'm being humble. Maybe other lawyers.
So you say, what will it add to the fight as it's going on currently? You know, there was this analogy. I think Professor John Paul also made that if you enter a room and the room is flooded with water, and the tap that has been opened, that is causing the room to be flooded, is still open, but yet you bring more men to continue fetching the water out, but not going to the source to close the tap. And stop the main source of the flow so that you would finish taking the water out. As against you allowing the water to continue flowing while you are also trying to fetch the water. That's a fruitless exercise.
Yes, perfect.
So that comes to the point that you make. So that if there is a state of emergency, because he made that analysis predicated on his point that there should be a consideration of the state of emergency. That if there's a state of emergency, you now halt the operation of the illegal miners. Then you have the police go in, as you indicated, to enforce that. As against what the police task force is doing now, when they go in and they stop it at one point, when they move to the other, the Galamseyers go back and start again. So how do we stop this?
Perfect. So that's the question I was asking. So how is that different? See, the analogy that was given is brilliant. By in law, ADG will tell you, we have a famous statement for that. Analogies can blur the argument. Analogies can blur the argument. Yes, he means stop the bleeding. How do we stop it? So what I mean is that currently, what stops us from sending back IGO news people to the Galamsey side? What stops us? So that is where I said that's what we should be asking Mr. President. That when are they returning with the requisite knowledge this time to be able to help them distinguish illegals from legals? So like I said, the state of emergency is not a magic wand. It's a declaration, it's a paper, right? Declare state of emergency, blah, blah, over this and this period. I don't want us to bog down with the procedure. We want to go to the substance. Somebody should tell me, when you finish declaring it on paper, isn't that the same police who will go there to police the sites and stop them? So, and currently, the law allows the police to go. So what do we do? So you see, the truth of the matter is that's why I said I've never stated anywhere that I support state of emergency. At that time, you see, truth be told, it was politically sexy. So sometimes, once the majority of the citizens had bought in, but it doesn't appear to me that people understood what it was, different from what a government could do. Because the key thing is, when you declare it now, this thing that take measures justifiable to stop the problem. Currently, what stops us from taking measures, like sending the police back, he said, and the president made a point, good. So a few weeks ago, I'd said that we should station the police in the forest. Ken Ashigbe, my good friend, was here. I said, no, it's impossible. Did you hear the president say that they will establish permanent presence there? So that is it. So the key thing is, let's ask Mr. President, when are all the forests, map out the days and dates the police will take over this forest. And no military, please. The police can do this job, no military. And our constitution, this is work for the police, not military.
Okay. But Mr. Jackson, I know I've kept you here beyond your time, so I'll just give you some few minutes on this. But I will ask Ewa and Adam Senanu are going to be joining us in the next few minutes in studio. But Engineer Dr. Kenashigbe was to join us earlier. He had a little issue, so unfortunately he couldn't. But I will ask why he's here. And his point of disagreement of your proposal, which the president now says is going to be done, he was talking about the numbers. Because if you're stationing policemen in the forest, right?
We'll recruit more. There are millions of our citizens who are looking for jobs.
All right. So yes.
Couldn't enter.
Oh, we will do it. We'll do it with drones, etc. The president showed that they will
We've
be
been talking about
Okay,
artificial
thank you.
drones.
Yes.
Mr. Jackson,
Drones. They will do it.
Just have your take on this. Quick one.
You know, for me, Galamsey gets me as emotional as Professor Bobkin.
Maybe a little below mine.
I don't think so. If you recall, when the young men and ladies of this country had their demonstration, I was right in the forefront with them.
Yeah.
I was right in the forefront, in the front of the demonstration with them.
Yeah.
But you see, the challenge I think we have here is this. When the ordinary citizen heard a state of emergency, they were not thinking about the legal bits of a state of emergency. What came to mind was a sense of urgency. And you see, what the problem now is that we're not transmitting the same sense of urgency that the phrase state of emergency exhibited. For me, I think most Ghanaians don't really care if the legal process to create a state of emergency is created, so long as a state of urgency is perceived. The second thing is that I'd like to paint for you a little scenario. Today, as we sit, Ghana Water is asking for a 280% increase in tariff.
Yeah.
Because of Galamsey. That is the statement they put out.
Well, there are other factors, but the most important.
The key thing is Galamsey.
Because
We've had issues where the infrastructure in certain towns and cities have broken down. I live in Tema. Tema used to be the best place for utilities. Now, if you get 3 days water in a week in Tema, you are looking good. And this is in the rainy season. I dare to think of what will happen in the dry season. And you find similar experiences all over. That's for water. You see, one of the reasons why some of us get emotions are all these gains that we seem to have made in these 9 months can be frittered away because of Galamsey. Why? If the rest of the world decides that we are selling gold that is not sustainable, we could be blacklisted. And all the gain.
Already there's something going on. A lot of the international community, we are not buying our gold. Almost 80% or so our gold is going to United Arab Emirates.
Thank you. Listen. Gold board, which is
there's
supposed to be
already
the
some
game
kind of
changer,
backlash.
the gold board effect could disappear simply because we have not tackled Galamsey, and we are now blacklisted as selling unsustainable gold. Prof used a phrase, blood gold. We could easily be labeled blood gold the same way.
It will not be only gold.
I'm
Very
coming.
soon, certain food items we may
coming
not
to
be
that.
able to export.
Okay.
Cocoa, you will not be able to export cocoa. If you can't export, because you see, the heavy metals are leaching into the water bodies.
And Ghana Water Company doesn't correct that.
It can't correct that. Two, there are places in this country where when they are mixing fertilizer, they use sachet water because the water from the rivers will make the fertilizer bubble. The challenge is that the sense of urgency doesn't seem to come out.
Yeah.
And or what some of us feel is that the kingpins behind Galamsey are quietly and insidiously infiltrating into the leadership of the NDC and are subverting the vim with which they talked about when they were in opposition.
Okay.
And that is what is scary.
Well, and Lord Tamaklo, you see, this matter, the politics of it brings a certain context, but the focus today is not on the politics of things. It's on the reality that we're faced with, that as we speak, and we're going to put it on the screen because right now we've got information that the Kwenyako headworks has been shut down by the Ghana Water Company Limited because of illegal mining. And Mr. Jackson, thank you so much for coming. I do appreciate this. We'll put that video on the screen right now. Awolasewa is going to be joining us together with Adam Senano. What you're seeing there is the Kwenyako headworks. This Ayensu River that flows into Kwenyako has been polluted by activities of Galamsey operators. And just a little over a week ago, when the managing director of the Ghana Water Company Limited visited Kwenyako, he had indicated, that's Adam Otawakilo, indicated that if things don't change in the coming weeks, they will have to shut down the Kwenyako headworks. That has been done. Just 3 days ago, we received that information because they are now, instead of getting water, they are having to treat mud going through their treatment plant. Before this challenge, the headwork produced and supplied over 25,000 cubic meters of water per day. Production has been halted currently. Divers who were hired to assess the situation of the pumps underwater have recommended that the pumps be desilted. Their assessment also recommends dredging of the river. That is what's happening in this Kwenyako headworks. And that's the water they've been treating. That's how it looks at the moment. This certainly is not looking good. It's one that urgent action needs to be taken. And as we speak, Kwesi Kikrom residents are also having to share a stream of water with animals. This is in the Aguna East district of the Central Region as well. So, what is being done now to address this danger that we're faced with? Galamsey. Awolasewa is co-founder of Eco-Conscious Citizens, one of the foremost human rights, environmental NGOs in this country, leading this advocacy on the fight against Galamsey. Awola, thank you so much for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me, and good morning to you and your listeners.
Perfect. Also have Adam Senano, who's a co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption, and Mensano has another portfolio.
And he's my boss also.
He's your boss as well. At the African Union. Yeah, so that's the chairperson of the Advisory Board Against Corruption at the African Union. He's a big man.
Yes.
Come on.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
And we better take his advice seriously.
This is the first time you've been on the show after this elevation. Yeah. So congratulations is in order.
Thank you.
And good work, good exports to the continent. Sorry, Ntawaklo, please.
Yes. I was just wondering whether Sinano had G-Raps. But that said, when Prof was talking, I listened to him. And because he's a professor, I was minded to interject. And when he said the president had failed in this fight against Galamsey, because he's a professor, I wanted to find out from him what were the marking scheme. Because at the point I was wondering whether he was using the UCC marking scheme or grading system or the University of Ghana.
Where pass mark is 100%.
Clearly, from what I've seen, the pass mark is 100%. Because if not, a fair, candid, objective analysis of the interventions that have been put in place, the conclusion cannot be that the president had failed. I have always maintained that the issue of Galamsey is like what used to happen in the 80s with drug trade. It has always been work in progress. Look, what attracted the Europeans maybe to Ghana then Gold Coast, was gold. Our people have always mined gold one way or the other. It became a problem.
Yes.
I'm coming. It became a problem when we now introduce excavators and the concept of champagne, particularly in our water bodies. That for me was the beginning of the hell that we are facing today. As for the negative impact of Galamsey, I've sat on this platform and raised those issues. I recall a documentary by one of your sister stations where they even showed women giving birth and the impact on the fetus, to the point that they could not even develop genitalia and many others. So the impact, the hazard of Galamsey threatens our very existence, no doubt. But what I want us to do, an objective critique, maybe devoid of the emotions, is to look at the intervention. I don't have a problem if we critique the interventions and say, look, this one can be better. This one, we can do it this way. I think when we come to that consciousness, it will help the conversation. First of all, President John Dramani Mahama, then candidate Mahama, never on any platform promised to declare a state of emergency. I have challenged everybody that produced for me just a video recording of President Mahama making that declaration that I will, or a proclamation that I will, with the benefit of power, declare a state of emergency. I remember vividly, a group had put together a coalition at the tail end and invited the main flag bearers to that program. When President Mahama attended that program, he was extremely cautious on the question of state of emergency, because we all do appreciate that the moment you declare a state of emergency, you change the dynamics of that locality. It is not going to be business as usual. Internationally, reputations associated with a state of emergency or martial law is evident. I give you two examples. Philippines. When President Duterte became president in Philippines, first he said you are declaring a state of emergency to fight Islamic terrorists or insurgents in one of the provinces in Philippines. Then he now moved it into the drug trade. Today, as I speak to you, just a March, Duterte was arrested and now facing international criminal whatever at The Hague because of how Duterte was in the palace and soldiers were killing people in the name of drug trade. It is something that you need to approach with a lot of caution. You see, in this country, when excesses happen, nobody looks for who did it. They look for the president under whose watch it happened. I remember vividly there was a day in the name of fighting armed robbery or something. 8 young men, either in Taifa or so, were brutally murdered under the mistaken view that they were what? Armed robbers. So I'm just coming. No, I'm just coming. Prof, I beg you. Okay. I beg you, sorry. With respect. Okay. The point I am making is that there's demonstrable evidence that whenever there is a state of emergency declared, the evidence globally has always shown excesses, be it in South Korea. When President Park declared the martial law in South Korea, the end result was international reputational damage. Because soldiers will go and do things, and then there will be a problem. And you see, I've always maintained, especially with the deployment of soldiers, there is a scar in the mind and heart of soldiers today, And you know that scar?
What's the scar you're talking about?
The brutal murder of, is it Captain or Major Mahama?
Major Maxwell.
He's now Major Maxwell Mahama.
Promoted posthumously.
And from that time, soldiers have always been on the watch out to deal with people relative to these Galamsey matters. Now you deploy soldiers under a state of emergency. My fear is what the fallout will be. And if you listen to President Mahama carefully, he never said, I have ruled out the issue of the state of emergency. So with respect, the critics, the people...
He only said he's reluctant to do so.
So the people... hold on, I beg you. The people who have taken issues with President Mahama on this matter, the man never said, I won't declare. He said that will be the last resort. He made that point. He said the interventions that we have deployed so far, are there more room for improvement? No doubt, yes. If we scale up all the interventions that we have, can we restore the health of our water bodies? Yes. Can that be done? Yes. So as president, and all of us here, without sounding arrogant, all of us here, which one of us has security briefing within a week? Which one of us? I'm not sure. I think he's the only one that is privileged as president, commander-in-chief, to have security briefings. At least, maybe in a month or a week or whatever, I don't know how the arrangement is. And so if the man, where he sits, says that, with all the briefings I have and the powers I have, I strongly believe that if I beef up all these interventions, I will still achieve that result without a formal declaration of a state of emergency. I think we just have to give him the benefit of the doubt. This is the president, respectfully, who had just taken over barely 8 months ago. The systemic pollution of our water bodies over the period. Was it the expectation that, with respect, the raising of a magic wand, our water bodies will be restored in 8 months? Was that the expectation? Then I really want to say that, yes, then Ghanaians really, truly and truly had a huge expectation of President Mahama. And that for me is encouraging. It's commendable. I mean, learning the extent to which the good people of this country had expectation of President Mahama, that in 8 months, he will solve a problem that had been created, a systemic problem over 8 years and more in 8 months, clearly probably showed the test, the challenge people had with leadership over the past 8 years. But I can assure you on this platform that President John Dramani Mahama is not reneging. He believes that he has a legacy mandate, a mandate to show. The reset agenda includes resetting our environment.
Not to cut you, people are saying that, you see, Sam George said it can be done in 1 day. That's
a state of emergency is different. I do not even know the context within which my brother Sam George spoke. Yeah. I would not want to hold him to straight proof on these matters. But I am saying, on this table, in 8 months, this is a president who in 8 months have gotten the task force that he's put together, move over 440 excavators, over 900 pumping machines, over 300 and over plus and fine. Look at the interventions. Look, when President Mahama became president, on the 7th day of January 2025, nine of our forest reserves were completely captured. Is that not a fact? As we speak, has there not been recoveries?
2 have been retaken.
Please, with respect, I am saying that 9 were lost. All of them taken to you say like 2 were retaken. As I speak,
president
Jimara or something has been repossessed. Are we saying this is not effort? This is not commendable?
It is.
Which school, when you have all these intervention and performances, will score you F? That lecturer will definitely be a very wicked one and will not be objective. So the point I am making is that on this platform, there is demonstrable work done under President Mohammed's leadership. I strongly believe that more is required. I agree. To whom much is given, much is expected. A president who comes with over 57% victory at the poll, much would definitely be expected. And President Mahama is not oblivious of that. He has never taken this mandate for granted. He has always said, with great pride, that look, what Ghanaians did for him on December 7, 2024 is a record one. And he's eternally grateful for that kind of mandate from the good people of this country. But I can assure all of us seated on this platform that President Mahama is not going to renege on this. He will fight it to the very last end. But what he's mindful of the associated risk with a declaration of a state of emergency. Because globally, there is evidence that anytime a state of emergency is declared, the unintended consequences has always been problematic.
Okay.
And often controlling the narrative becomes a huge problem. And that is why, look, what do we call it? 9 months. Is that the name?
Yes, 9 months.
Have they stopped work? No. As I speak to you, they are on the Ankobra River. They are on the Bonsu River. Have they stopped work? No. We have had an intervention because you see, the concern, sitting here, just last week, Saturday, around this time, I used Cape Coast to Kumasi Road. And the pra, you could see the water there. Obviously, who is happy with such sights?
So the pra looks
Extremely
polluted.
Yes, extremely dehumanizing. Me, where I grew up in Nkwanta, our water, the water we drink, we go to the riverside to fetch water, to cook and do everything. I see these ones and it scares me. My people in Trifopraso, Bimpo Eja, is the pra that they have survived all.
And
many years.
You know, at
today,
some point we thought the Volta River was spared.
Today they cannot. Today, when you go to Bole, the water there, what they are doing. Recently, the Oti River around Dambai, if you look at the water body, it is not what we have always seen it to be. So the concern is huge, but President Mahama is taking this fight to a different level. Do you know the internal revolt?
The internal revolt
Yes.
of the president.
The fight.
The internal revolt within government.
Yes. No, not government.
Within the
Even
NDC.
party. Do you know why? Because party members in the various constituencies saw what their colleague MPP people were doing in the 8 years. The wealth they made out of polluting water bodies. There is always the tendency for party members to approach you. And when then the president says, no. Have you ever seen, under the watch of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, that the Attorney General of the Republic of Ghana, be it Gloria Akufu or Godfrey Adame, referred any national officer of the MPP for investigation relative to Galamsey? Let's see the record. But President, under the watch of President Mahama, the Attorney General, no other person, but the national organizer of the party, the vice chair of the party, they have been referred for investigation. Commendable. So please, let's get to the point where we appreciate the collective effort of President Mahama to address this canker, I have no doubt at all in my mind that we'll win this fight against Galamsey. It may not, with all the social connections, be sudden, but we'll win it.
Well, Awula, this, you see, from the perspective of the president, he makes the reference, and that's what Ediju was talking about the powers that the president says has not been exhausted as yet. And that's the only reason why he says he's reluctant. I think that's the context for which he made that statement. His reluctance is that there's more that can be done with what is available now, even before we get to the last resort. Professor Bobkin is talking about the last resort being the resort for now because of the evidence. There's a point of departure that NG has, but I've also referenced what is happening across the country in some areas. With the NIMOS and the IGP task force on the ground, what would be the direct impact of the declaration of the state of emergency?
You see, what I would say is that if there are other measures that can be taken, what are we waiting for to take those measures? The house is burning. Are we waiting for the house to be totally burnt to ashes and then we act? You see, if you use that analogy, we'll begin to understand what is going on. What are we waiting for? We know about the premature deaths. We know about babies being born deformed. We know about the rise in kidney disease. Konfanoche Teaching Hospital has told us that cases have gone up 4 times. We are aware of that. We know that about 60, if not % of our water bodies have been poisoned. Water is life. We will not die if we don't have gold, but we will die without water. It has affected the food chain. The water we have in front of us, the fact that it's clear doesn't mean it's safe. We know that maybe the reverse osmosis process, if that has been done. So we face an existential threat. If there are any measures you can take that you haven't taken, the question is that what are we waiting for to take them? And then I was a little concerned about saying that the IGP's task force did not know the difference between illegal miners and small-scale mining. Yes. So, the best of my knowledge, whether you have a license or not, you cannot be on our water bodies. So once you are there, you are illegal, whether or not you have a piece of paper. I have a driving license. That means I can drive on the pavement. I can drive whilst drunk. Having a license doesn't mean, and Professor Frimpong Boati made it very clear that even when you have a license, if you go outside the parameters of your license, you are what? You're engaged in illegal mining. So I don't think that, I find it difficult to understand that if the illegal miners, or what I call them environmental terrorists, were found in forest reserves, whether they have a piece of paper or not, they are engaged in illegal mining because you are not a small-scale miner supposed to be in our forest reserves. So I'm finding it difficult to understand what is going on. But all I'll say is that there is urgency, and I think our brother was talking about the sense of urgency. Ghanaians voted not necessarily for the NDC. They voted against the past administration because the perception was that nothing was being done. The presidency was put on the line and nothing was being done. Things were getting from bad to worse. And therefore, Ghanaians said, we look at the images you have shown. We don't want to continue being poisoned. So please, if you are not able to do it, let's give way. And then the NDC stalwarts were lining up to say, declare a state of emergency, declare a state of emergency. Now we suddenly find out that it's not as simple as that. You also said you would repeal LI 2462. And then you came to power, gave us all sorts of excuses why it couldn't be done. And then we said we were doing it, and we found out that what was being done was what? An amendment. And Ghanaians felt that that was a little disingenuous because you promised revocation. Now we are told... Exactly. Now we are told it's going to be revoked. And I would say that when it's been laid before Parliament, when it has actually been revoked, then we know that is the case. That was a low-hanging fruit. It could have been done to make Ghanaians understand that something serious is going on. We also want EI 144, which allows for the disclassification of Achimota Forest to be repealed. Because the lungs of Accra, the last remaining lungs in Accra, is Achimota Forest. Why would you declassify parts of it? So what I would say is that Ghanaians appreciate that there's urgency. We are being poisoned. We are being poisoned. We're not waiting for every Ghanaian to be dropping dead from kidney disease before we apply other methods. So yes, if you don't want to call it state of emergency, there are things you can do. We expected that simultaneously in our water bodies, I don't know the strength of our Navy. I don't know the strength of our Army. But you are the commander-in-chief, you know the strength. We want to see urgent action being taken. Simultaneously, you're on the water bodies, you're on the forest reserves, you're on the farmland. Then Ghanaians know something is going on. So if the law as it is allows you to do so, what on earth is stopping you from doing so? That is the question that Ghanaians are asking. That there appears to be no sense of urgency. Today we've gone here, seized 2 excavators. Yes. Tomorrow we've gone here.
Importing more excavators.
And then you see what I find very disingenuous was that we know that there's not been a great build. What are excavators used for? To excavate. How many building projects are going on that so many excavators are coming to the country? We know they're finding their way to our forest reserve. So we said ban outright the importation of excavators for a period. You said you're going to issue licenses. We all know what it is like. We cannot enforce anything. So why don't you just pause the bringing in of excavators? Just like small-scale mining. People say pause it. There are so many of them, you're unable to monitor. I'll give you the case of Atronsu. They had a beautiful environment. They have the beautiful Atronsu stream, which they were boasting was better than Voltic or any water. Then you wanted to bring in, illegal mining. But yes, President Mahama did say that small-scale community mining and illegal mining was virtually the same thing. Now it's being replaced with cooperative mining. But what it is that we are bringing community mining. We went to court to stop it. And then later on, illegal miners came in. Their Atronsu stream was being polluted. We contacted the EPA. They asked if they had an EPA license. I don't work at the EPA, but I don't think they had one. To the best of my knowledge, the EPA never was able to go to Atronsu, to the best of my knowledge, to find out what was going on. So the place kept on being polluted until 2 excavators were burned. And then very quickly, the police managed to arrest the activists. And they have been charged, and they've been going to court since then. And we are hoping that the Attorney General would drop the charges. They said they didn't burn the excavator. But the good news is that since the excavators got burnt, the illegal activity has stopped. So the point being made is that what is the use of excavators? Why can you not even temporarily ban the importation of excavators? There are enough in the country for those who are doing construction work to be able to use. Second of all, why can you not pause small-scale mining until we have our act together? And I'll keep on saying that one of our fundamental problems is that we are allergic to enforcement. If you look at the cooperative mining regime and you look at the community mining, which we have said is the same as illegal mining, what is the difference? You are not able to put enforcement, robust enforcement and compliance in place. So why do you go and embark on it? It will only make matters worse. And I want to end up by saying that initially when you had Galamsey, it wasn't causing this much damage. They were using hand tools. They didn't have excavators and these chanfans. Now the game has changed completely. So it's gone from Galamsey to clear criminal activity, environmental terrorism. It's criminal activity, which needs to be nipped in the bud. And I would say that the window of opportunity to deal with this cancer is closing.
Does the effort reflect the sense of urgency?
We don't see that there's a sense of urgency. Even to repeal a low-hanging fruit like LI 2462, you dilly-dally, you're now going to do it. It hasn't been done 9 months into your presidency. Where is the urgency? Blue water guards, very well. Are they able to deal with armed environmental terrorists? They can't. So we don't see the sense of urgency. But we do commend the IGP's task force with the work they were doing. And if they had questions to answer, I don't think you want to throw away the baby with the bathwater.
See, you know, I'm going to go for this quick break. When I come back, I'll show you what you talked about. So you referenced the number of excavators coming in and what that's going to be used for. Because we know, even the large mining companies use excavators. And if you have over 1,200 excavators are stuck at the ports, the president explained why they were being moved at the time, because they said he had to decongest the ports. Why? You have any issue with that explanation, Ola?
Well, I mean, just seeing the number of excavators coming to the country, we know that there's a problem. And I believe Joy News ran a story, and that's when we got the explanation as to why they were being moved at night. Before that, we didn't have the explanation, but now we are being told that they're being moved at night because that's when there's less congestion or whatever.
To decongest the ports, and because the time at night there's less traffic,
But I just think it's worrying.
Big mining company, there's a scale up in their production. That's why they are now importing, and they can't clear their excavators within the normal and it has to be piled up. Look, do you know something? I think we are intelligent enough to see through some of these things, and we are not like ungrateful people that if we see effort, genuine effort, progress, we will not appreciate and all of that, because you can look, Ghana is not the only one doing mining. You can look at the water bodies in the Ivory Coast, look at other countries. I hope you understand that, and all of that. We should be able, look, if as a country, we cannot put ourselves together and do responsible mining, we have failed.
That if we can't do it, until we can do it, we should stop it. That's why I believe Shremanteng had said that when he came, he would have paused it for a while until we get our act together. Because you see, any day that we're not getting our act together, people are being poisoned. You and I are being poisoned. Even those in the diaspora, when you eat Ghanaian food, do you know what's in the tubers and the yams? And very soon, our cocoa will not be, as it has already been said, accepted. So we need to take urgent steps. And I'm afraid, much as we commend some of the steps that have been taken, they are not enough. They are not robust enough to deal with the magnitude of the problem. We're not saying nothing has been done. I mean, nobody would say, of course,
also did say nothing has been
exactly.
done.
If I've heard very good feedback about your submissions, I'm getting very good feedback, about your submission. But what people are saying is that the urgency of the problem, we need to see more robust, swift action. We don't want to wait till every Ghanaian has got kidney disease before we decide to act.
I'll go for this quick break. When we're back, a number of your messages as well here on Key Point on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7. Zano, you have your take on this. With the Operation Recover All Loot, oral as well as on the table. Lawyer Digita Maklo has some exclusive information on the update on oral. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly.
When we come together, generations connect through love and legacy. In the present stillness, we see echoes of the past and enduring strength, founded on Gassem's unwavering commitment. From generation to generation, Gassem has been a cornerstone in shaping our nation's future. And now, with Gassem's new EcoCool, we set a new standard for strength and sustainability. Gassem EcoCool, cementing a sustainable nation. Gassem, the nation builder.
Every dream starts with a prayer. And every prayer ends with a promise. At Blue Financial Services, it is our passion to make you smile, to show you that your smallest deposits can lead to major financial wealth. From the early days, taking that first big step to the days of joyous maturity. We will be with you so that when it is time to dream again and you are ready to invest,
reporting from the Takoradi Market Circle, from the heart of the Upper West Regional Capital,
from the heart of the Ashanti Kingdom,
reporting from Sunyani,
from the Central Business District of Navrongo.
The parliamentarians are on recess.
This is where it all unfolds, the moments that potentially alters the course of our nation and the world. These are the individuals we recognize, the voices we amplify, who appears on screen and who contributes behind the scenes. With professionalism at our core, we bring you news you can trust, impact journalism that makes a difference. This illustrates how diverse perspectives enhance our strength and reinforces our mission. This is 3 News. Leaders in breaking news, exclusive interviews, facts and analysis on TV, radio, online and digital. 3 News, first in news.
Reporting from the Takoradi Market Circle, from the heart of the Upper West Regional Capital.
From the heart of the Ashanti Kingdom.
Reporting from Sunyani. From the Central Business District of Navrongo.
The parliamentarians are on recess.
This is where it all unfolds. The moments that potentially alters the course of our nation and the world. These are the individuals we recognize, the voices we amplify, who appears on screen and who contributes behind the scenes. With professionalism at our core, we bring you news you can trust, impact journalism that makes a difference. This illustrates how diverse perspectives enhance our strength and reinforces our mission. This is 3 News. Leaders in breaking news, exclusive interviews, facts and analysis on TV, radio, online and digital. 3 News, first in news.
Reporting from the Takoradi Market Circle, from the heart of the Upper West Regional Capital.
From the heart of the Ashanti Kingdom.
Reporting from Sunyani. From the Central Business District of Navrongo.
The parliamentarians are on recess.
This is where it all unfolds. The moments that potentially alters the course of our nation and the world. These are the individuals we recognize, the voices we amplify, who appears on screen and who contributes behind the scenes. With professionalism at our core, we bring you news you can trust, impact journalism that makes a difference. This illustrates how diverse perspectives enhance our strength and reinforces our mission. This is 3 News, leaders in breaking news, exclusive interviews, facts and analysis on TV, radio, online and digital. 3 News, first in news.
Reporting from the Takoradi Market Circle, from the heart of the Upper West.
Welcome back. This is Keep on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7. Quite a number of your messages on Galamsey. We'll get into it. But Awula, you referenced, and Professor Bobkinat has to leave us, but Awula, you referenced the excavators invasion, essentially. And the transport minister did acknowledge what is happening. In fact, 2 months ago, he gave us this information about over 1,200 excavators that were stuck at the ports at the time, and some clearance that was being done. In terms of the sources of excavators into Ghana, China, $95.4 million. This is as of 2023. The top 5 suppliers of excavators to Ghana. Number 1 is China. 2, India, $67.7 million. Belgium, $11.9 million. Japan, $6.23 million. South Korea, beg your pardon, $6.2 million, thereabout. In terms of the global positioning, excavators ranked the 10th most imported item in Ghana out of 4,282 products. Galamsey was, I beg your pardon, that's excavators was number 10. And in terms of the global scale, Ghana ranks the 34th largest importer worldwide of excavators out of 215 countries. So what are we using the excavators for? Because in 2023, look at this, 2023, Ghana was ranked the first in the West African sub-region when it comes to excavator imports. $205 million spent on importing excavators in 2023. Number 1, followed by Nigeria, $94 million. This paints the picture of what we are faced with now, that over 1,200 excavators were stuck at the port within just 3 or 4 months of when the ban was put in place. This is the existential threat that we are faced with. Zedu Jitamaklo has run through the measures that have been put in place and the results that have been chalked. But measuring that or juxtapose that with the situation, the quantum of the problem, what else has to be done? Is a state of emergency the solution to address the quantum of the problem as we're seeing now?
Well, thank you very much, Alfred. First of all, let me commend the government and the president for the efforts being put in. I mean, when you say that we had 9 forests lost and we've been able to reclaim 2 of them, I think that's an important fact that must be put.
No, reclaim all. 2 taken back, but 1 restored.
Yes.
Okay,
So,
so
like
9.
almost 8 taken out of the 9.
Almost 8 out of the 9.
Yes.
I think that's very important. And it's always good to, we say from human resource management administration, make sure that the people, when they do something right, you tell them. But let me also say, it's good to see Edruji on the defense. Uneasy lies the head that wears the crown. It's not easy at all. When you have serious Ghanaians, and people like Joe Jackson, Professor Godfrey Bokpin, are some of the most independent, most critical but well-meaning Ghanaians you can get. When they all begin to say that there is something amiss, I think it just tells all of us that we need to up our game.
And we take that feedback.
And I love that. I was just going to say, with a science background, I'm going to raise the science issues because I think that what is happening is, what are the indicators we are using? The indicator on forests reclaimed is positive. How about the indicators relating to turbidity, level of mercury in the water, kidney failure, number of persons with organs that are deficient or not well formed, and so on and so forth? So perhaps what we need is a set of indicators that we all agree we will be tracking over the period.
Yes.
As the true reflection of whether we are making progress or not. And to that extent, you will find that then when we come to the table and want to discuss, have we made progress or not, we can all make sense of the discussion.
Sure.
At the moment, I feel that the reason why you find Joe and Gottfried saying that, no, we don't think we are doing much, is because they are looking at other indicators. How many people have died or lost their lives because of this? When I look at these figures, and maybe before I come to the figures, another thing I think is important is that from my communication studies, perception is important. In fact, we say 70 to 90% of the conclusions we draw.
That's right. Optics.
It's on the optics. So we may not call it state of emergency so determined by the Constitution, but we need to raise this to a new level where, you know, the issue of a state of emergency simply means, and we say perceptions affect the way we think, the way we feel, and the way we act. And so when the police use red and blue colors, that flashing, it draws a certain attention, you will stop certain things. So what do we need to do to begin to, as it were, frighten, restrict those who want to, with impunity, get into such spaces? That's the question we're asking. What do we call it? What kind of campaign? What kind of communication do we need to do? So what your citizens are saying is that
up the game.
Up the game.
Perfect.
Mr. President. Now, let me come to these figures. These figures are frightening.
You mean the excavator?
The excavator figures, they are very frightening. I am aware that our international partners have been asking, why don't we put a restriction on FX for the importation of excavators and other such tools? And let me tell you why this works. All of us today, when we need to get foreign exchange to purchase anything, you are required to put a description of what you are using it for and to provide the supporting documentation.
Yes.
What that means is that there is no way you will get the foreign exchange that you require to buy these things without having put that description. And so all Bank of Ghana has to do is to say, When that description begins to be excavators or this certain equipment and tools, it cannot be approved. Because if you are in a situation where you understand that the lives of your citizens are at stake, kidney failure is increasing, mercury levels are going up, people are dying, you cannot allow this kind of thing to continue. These numbers that tell a story. This itself is an indicator of the fact that we are not paying attention to the spaces where the support. So on one hand, the forests have been reclaimed, but these figures tell another story. They tell us that somehow, some way, the tools for the trade to continue are still being brought in. And one would want to ask themselves, so where are they continuing these activities? So in my view, altogether, the impression is that there's so much more we need to do to clamp down on these activities and to retrieve the space. And in my mind, people like Sawa need to be asked, what are the indicators that if the president were reporting on, we will all now be comfortable? Wow. These are the stakeholders who probably can help us craft a way forward that will be acceptable to all parties.
There's someone who was asking a question, and KJTR says, please, why can't government become the only importer and renter of excavators and mining materials through legislation? Government buy back all excavators and monopolizing, in inverted commas, the ownership and use of anything mining, including excavators. That's to the lawyers. That would be a stretch, eh?
Exactly.
I am privy to some conversation,
right,
where the discussion now had moved from not just the question of an importation perspective, but tracking.
Yes.
A system where just at a place you can track all the excavators in this country.
Yeah.
Now, thankfully, this country is mapped.
Yes.
Where our forest reserves are, completely mapped.
Yes.
Where our river bodies are, completely mapped.
Absolutely.
And so if you track the excavator and you see it at a water body, that is conclusive evidence enough that what are you doing there with the excavator?
Yes. And the law allows the LI. We pass the LI for the tracking.
No, you will come in. Yeah. I'm just saying. And so if the thing can be tracked, we can't see where this thing are. Look, over the week, right, there was this story about midnight evacuation movement.
Yes.
I mean, the impression was even created as though these excavators were being moved in the night to mining sites. Meanwhile, it was just basically to relocate for the purpose of decongesting the port.
That's what you say, yes.
No, but, and look, and you see, I always say that, look, madam, you are with the CSO. My senior brother here is with the CSO. Beyond what Eduji says, you the CSOs, go to Shire Hills, go to ABCD with your cameraman. Government says X number of excavators have been moved. We have checked. It is not true. We have checked. It is true. It puts matters in proper perspective. Don't you think so?
Let's come in this way briefly.
Yes. No, if you could conclude on the point.
Yes, the president, so as part of the speech, he mentioned the tracking. He said this and now they'll make sure that the tracking is done, right? So maybe we should be watching.
No, I think even the tracking is supposed to be in progress. But we are reliably informed that it is not working. Reliably informed.
So we need better.
You see, and some of the things that puzzle me, we are talking about, tracking the excavators and knowing where they are. As we speak, we know, for example, that there are chanfans on the water bodies. It's not a secret. We know.
Where?
Oh, come
but
on.
let's add this.
Because I know.
Okay, if you want to know. No. You have somebody.
No, hold on, madam. I appreciate the intervention. All I'm saying is that, you see, this fight, at the barest minimum, should be a collective one.
It is one. Yes. And you are giving the information.
And I am saying that, you see, so, for instance, the likes of Kenabua and Co., who are manning this NIMOS group and others, they have a hotspot, numbering and others. You have information, specific information, actionable intel, that at this time, X number of champagnes are on the Ancobra at so and so place. Result, like you pointed out, we can easily measure at. On this day, I gave this information to NIMOS. that there are X number of champagnes. After 2 weeks, they are still there. Then you can hold them. Oh, senior.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let's add this. Those who have been arrested, I think this morning some listener is referred that we haven't referred to the number of arrested persons, the pumps that have been taken,
900
the excavators,
440. At least in the past, the record was we never saw where the excavators were.
So the number of persons. That's over 1,000.
1,400.
That's what the president said. 1,000. Well, yes, just your final on this, because in the end, there's an acknowledgement across the table that a lot more needs to be done. I think that's not in doubt.
Agreed.
What has to be done specifically in the further effort to fight this?
You see, you have people on the ground, like, to name one person, Erastus Asaredonko.
Yes.
He has posts on Facebook almost every day. We cannot say we do not know where the Chan fans are. We cannot, if we say we don't know that, we're not being truthful. We know. So that what I'm saying is that what is preventing us from having a simultaneous effort, go to the, not just the Ankompra, the Tano Nimiri, all of them, we know that there are Chan fans there as we speak. Why are we not doing anything about it? And every day you can read Erastus's post because he's doing excellent work and he tells you where the hotspots are. If we really want to deal with the problem, we can. It's not as if it's a secret. It's going on openly. It's going on openly. We know that about 60% of our water bodies are polluted. So all I'm saying is that we have the information. It's the willingness to do something about the information which remains the challenge.
Right.
And what seems to happen a lot of the time is that we are going after the previous administration, those who were involved, and the current administration. There are people who want to find their way into those shoes, and that is where the issue lies.
I would also appreciate you for this, and that leads us into the oral cases, because Galamsey is also part of oral, because that was one of the issues you got reports on, oral preparatory team. The president gave an update on the oral cases, and then also the question I asked about the comment by the general secretary of the party, Fifi Fiavikwete, that some NDC lawyers are cutting deals with people standing trial for acts of corruption. Take a look at this.
For missing one of the questions, and that is the accusation that there's interference in terms of the oral investigations. I would have very conveniently said the General Secretary himself is here, and so I'll call him to present his evidence to the public. But I can assure you that there's no way anybody can interfere. I cannot be in people's mind to stop them from attempting to interfere, but I am responsible for making sure that that interference comes to naught. And so I closely monitor. I hold regular meetings with the Attorney General. He briefs me on the status of investigations. And so I'm confident that, the cases will go ahead based on their merits and that nobody would have the opportunity to interfere. If anybody goes lobbying people or paying people to interfere, they probably are just throwing away their resources. All cases will be investigated and come to their logical end. If people are exonerated in the courts, that's what justice is all about. We will do our part, and we're being painstaking in preparing the dockets, and that's why people are complaining that it's a bit slow. But you don't want to hurriedly take a docket to courts and have it thrown out on technicality, and that's why you need to make sure that by the time a docket is prepared and prosecution starts, you have a watertight case that will ensure that you get a conviction. And so that's the process that we're going through.
So that's the president. The assurance is that there can be no interference in oral investigation. So where did the General Secretary get this information from? Because at that gathering you were there, no?
So thankfully, last week, lawyers associated with the NDC did our 5th conference in Kumasi, and consistent, we invited the National Chairman, General Secretary, the Chief of Staff, among others. Well-attended program. The General Secretary had the opportunity to share some words with us. I think that listening to the totality of the speech, I rather saw some kind of caution to all of us relative to the oral issues. I remember vividly he saying that in 1979, obviously I wasn't born, and those who witnessed the event in those days, the conversation around then was, let the blood flow. And said he would liken let the blood flow then to the issues of oral today. But he cited one example and said after everything, you remember the generals that were executed, and singled out the case of Efrifa and said many years after the execution of Efrifa, Chairman Rawlings himself admitted that with the benefit of hindsight, Efrifa ought not to be executed. And stated that it was a senior military officer who advised that Efrifa be included. Later, J. Rawlings found out that the senior military officer had a personal grudge with Efrifa and regretted that particular instance. So it was in that vein that the General Secretary dovetailed the issue that you can hear a lot of clamor. Oh, today oral, then let the blood flow. But he would advise the Attorney General to exercise a lot of caution, follow due process, ensure that the right thing is done. And then brought in the issue that he is sounding a warning that if there is anybody, I'm surprised that later it was then that NDC lawyers were cutting deals. I said, from where from this? But
so the
advice was a general caution to all of us. Look, in fact, he even said, when some of these trials are going on, Mr. Senanu, I'm just using as an example, may come and say, oh, Adujia, like the two of us are from the same town. Or, oh, we went to Achimota together. He was my roommate. I beg you, can you look into this more for me? He said, because our cultural connections, there's always the tendency for some of this, and was warning that let's focus on the bigger picture, because one of the major campaign issues in the 2024 election was on oral. Then he then gave because prior to that, the Attorney General had spoken before he came in. The Attorney General had then given the indication that one of the legislations that we have inherited was the amendment to the Criminal Procedure Act with the issue of plea bargaining. And then indicated that because the campaign promise was recover the loot, when you get conviction, it becomes a bonus. And that as a policy rationale, the focus relative to the campaign promise was to recover as much loot as you can. And that has always been. And that there have been instances where people have even approached and said, okay, we'll return the money, quote unquote, without going to court. He says, no, I will go to court. There are instances where people have approached through their lawyers, and it's permissible by law.
You should take the money.
That I only want to refund and go. He said, no, we have to also send a message to others that when you take, you can serve prison sentence. And that in most of the instances, these issues have come. So, Attorney General had given that information prior to he coming. And that was the basis why he then said, in all of this, we should exercise caution.
He said that some amongst you.
Oh, no. I mean, when you see, even he himself said, at the right time, you will do name and shame. He sat by me. AG was at this end. I was in the middle. Then he was in the middle between myself and Attorney General. So when he came, and so I was even mocking him, and I said, look, next time a speech like that, he should give it to us, so we'll pre-read before you go and stand, because so that the dynamite in the speech we can remove them. Then I was telling him, he said, no, Edwige, I don't usually write my speeches. I prefer that I'll just go and say it as it is. But bottom line, Attorney General Dominic Akrotinga Ayene, that I've worked with for the past 13 years or so, and my lecturer at the law faculty, admin law and natural resource law, and later coming to work and becoming a partner with him. I have no doubt at all. And with the dockets I have seen, look, he's on course.
Okay.
Look, I have never seen an attorney general in the past few years that within a year had moved with this speed. In 2017, I was involved in the NCA criminal trial. That trial started somewhere December 2017. The court concluded its judgment in May 2020. In May 2020, today, I have seen an attorney general that has commenced a case, moved beyond case management, had called his first prosecution witness. Not only that, 3 of the accused person's lawyers have already done with cross-examination. You know already, July, October is the usual legal vacation. So the high courts will go vacation and come in October. And so he has his eyes on the ball.
Right.
And he's consistent. Look, the SkyTrain matter gone very far. I am aware that July ending, he intended to file about 4 more. Then the vacation set in. Latest by October, not less than 5. And in some of the cases, the accused persons are as many as 5.
Wow.
Yes.
I see.
I should take the money.
Well,
you should take the money.
No, so as for the money conversation, I think he's even moved from beyond, because that one, that is the least. Because already the people and their lawyers have approached and said, look, this he said, no, I want to go to court. You do a proper plea, plead guilty, we recover, and maybe you do 2 years, 3 years, that kind of thing. That's where we've got into. As for the money, we've gone past that.
I honestly don't find a contradiction between what the General Secretary said and what the President said. I find that the President's comments were very nuanced.
Right.
Now, and Edwige, please don't intimidate your General Secretary. Allow him to speak. See, all of us who've been leaders, where you lead large groups, sometimes you get access to information that others don't have.
Yeah.
People will call you and tell you things. And I found it impressive. I have commended it.
Yes.
That a party will come. Yes. It's not. Yes. He's being blunt about it. That some people have this. Somebody may have called him. A few people and say, hey, they are attempting, which is true. Those attempts will come, and it's good to raise the red flag, because it then begins to serve as a deterrent. Otherwise, then people will think that we are under the cover of darkness, we can get ahead and actually influence the process. So I don't see it as contradictory. I see it as complementary. Indeed, unless, of course, Dr. Ayine is going to be the one prosecuting everything by himself. I would say that the President needs to be even cautious, because you never know what happens at the operational level.
Right.
The lawyers, one day maybe Dr. Dominic Ayine is not well and somebody else is the one who is handling the case, and then somebody influences him, gives some money here and there.
Absolutely.
And then before you know it, what we said could not happen has happened. So these things we know. That's what happened in the podcast space.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
I like, in fact,
thank you.
Thank
you. Yes.
Media Journal invites you to the National Thought Leadership Forum under the theme From Blueprint to Break, Making Affordable Housing Work. This convening and roundtable reflections will assemble policymakers, financiers, developers, traditional leaders, and innovators to move the conversation from policy to practice. It will showcase real housing prototypes, explore financing modules, and launch a practical roadmap for affordable housing delivery in Ghana. The event is scheduled for Tuesday, 23rd September 2025 from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. at the Labadi Beach Hotel. The program will feature contributions from esteemed speakers like Edward Atosapong, Managing Director, ADB Bank, Gideon Akrofi, Executive Chairman, Rehoboth Properties Limited, Professor S.O. Afram, Department of Architecture, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, KNUST, Mr. Prosper Hoetu, Chief Executive Officer, Ghana Home Ownership Fund, and the keynote speaker, Honorable Kenneth Gilbert Ajay, Minister for Works, Housing and Water Resources. This event will be broadcast live on TV3 and 3FM 92.7, amplified across all our digital platforms and on 3news.com. For inquiries, call 0570 899